Hello, wonderful people of the internet. I'm the Gaming 11. Many of you guys won't even get that reference. Yo! Is my chat thing not working? Oh, I turned it so you can't see it. What's up? How you doing? So, I'm probably gonna end up joining, John Dawson's, well, I'm going to end up joining John Dawson's live. He's having a podcast recording. Basically, me and him have been going back and forth for a couple days because he said some phenomenally stupid shit, and then T. Nathan basically proved him wrong, and then I called him out when he tried to make a weird response, and it kind of snowballed from there. I don't know if we're actually going to debate. He asked me to debate yesterday. I never saw his message, and then I proceeded to respond to him the first thing when I got up today. I responded to him, and he hadn't responded to me at all until I think about 3 p.m., which I didn't see until about 6 p.m. So, I messaged him saying I'd debate him. And, yeah, I don't know what he plans on doing now. Which guy was this? The black conservative guy who was like, who basically was like, oh, show me where Trump supporters were violent, blah, 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 and just went up beating up black people when someone said that they wouldn't get in an Uber with somebody with a Trump flag, at the back of it. Then T. Nathan showed a video of Trump supporters, or a video of multiple instances where Trump supporters, is my audio good? Let me know. But, yeah, so, basically, T. Nathan showed a video of a bunch of instances where Trump supporters, like, beat up black people, or beat up people in the name of Trump, at his request. Then he proceeded to go, all right, well, if you swap out Trump supporter and put black, then that sounds racist, right? Which wasn't the argument, but it was kind of a straw man, or a red herring, rather. And then I called him out for putting out that bullshitty-ass argument, and then we've been going back and forth. Audio's good, thank you. Well, been dealing with Trump supporters? Hell yeah. For reference, those of you guys who have not seen me stream before, when I look over here, I'm looking at my OBS, and I can see the live chat. I can also see the live chat over here, but I won't be looking over there. This will be my main screen, if I switch for a second. Now we're here, and you can see me there. It's kind of Inception. But basically, all this stuff's been happening. If I go to one of my videos here, I have a lot of private videos, because I upload videos private before I, actually do it. It's actually been on my second account. If you haven't followed my second account, then, go follow that. My jwilliamj 2 account has been locked. Oh, Jesus Christ. Calm down. So yeah, he's having a thing at 8 p.m. Central. I'm gonna be clicking the link and joining it. I don't know how it's gonna work on my PC, but, I was like, well, we can debate. He hasn't for sure DM'd me back a yes yet, so I just got the word out on my TikTok. So we'll see. I turned off the chat for this one too. Jesus Christ, the chat's going mad. So yeah, when's the debate happening? It should be 8 p.m. So I decided to go live 30 minutes early. For those of you guys who aren't aware of the situation, I can go over it very briefly. If you need me to. If the roles were reversed. Yeah, pretty much. I was going to respond to his latest video. He made another video about me that I don't plan on responding to, because I just kind of want to get the debate out the way. But effectively, he was like, if then that means a cop can judge you if you're running with people with criminal activity or whatever. A cop can judge you and treat you differently. Or if you have a BLM sticker on your car, the cops can treat. The issue is that's a police officer. Police officer is a ward of the state, and he's in a significantly more powerful position than a private citizen. And that's a government worker. So if I were to say, hey, I don't want to associate myself with you because of the political thing that you have on your car, that would be me making a decision as a private citizen not to associate with you. If I, as a ward of the state, and a person in a uniquely high position to decide who lives and who dies in certain situations, said, hey, I'm going to now treat you differently because you have a political thing on your car that I disagree with, that's bad policing. You're an officer of the state. You're not meant to carry your own biases into training or into your job, which is why cops receive anti-bias training. Overall, this whole fucking reference to cops and them being able to treat you bad according to my logic makes zero fucking sense, which is why I was looking forward to discussing this. Kenny, what up, Kenny Gordon? What up? Inspire me. Thanks, man. I'm still not used to hearing people say that. People say that all the time. It's still like kind of new to me, but I very much appreciate it. But yeah, effectively, what's been going on has been. Let me go back to my second account. I wonder how many followers this account has. Okay. I forgot what my password was for this, so please do not follow that account. This is my second account. So here. This was my first video that I made on him.
What if your Uber came and picked you up with a Trump 2020 flag at the back?
If a black person showed up in my Uber car and they said get in, I'll be like, hell no. I encourage you to make that same exact video you just made about Trump supporters, playing those clips of black people doing things.
So before I speak, that's exactly the issue here. The argument was that, hey, Trump supporters aren't actually violent. When have they ever done anything violent? And then T. Nathan showed it. And then he sidesteps it by going, alright, do the same thing, but playing clips of black people doing stuff, and you'll see how bad that sounds. No, because being black is a race. There's nothing, like, inherently violent or any inherent characteristics about being black, and you cannot control what race you are. You chose to believe in Donald Trump and support him. You can drop that at any point. So, and that's a political statement. One of them is a race. So if you're committing violence, or if there's been a lot of things in response to committing violence because of a certain political statement, then like people can be free to criticize, and that goes for BLM too, because they'll say but what about BLM? Yeah, you can criticize BLM and say, oh, well, they did violence in the name of a political statement, so I'm not going to associate with you for having like a BLM sticker. Okay, you're free to get any criticism that comes along with your personal decision not to associate with me over a BLM sticker, and I'm open to any criticisms of BLM if I put that BLM sticker on my car. Where he fails is when he says, oh, now a cop can discriminate against you because you have a BLM sticker and they've committed violence against cops. You're a police officer. Your job is not to enforce the law based on what political biases you have. Your job is to enforce the law. So if you're going to mistreat a citizen based on a BLM sticker, you're a shit cop and you shouldn't be a cop. That's why you receive anti-bias training, because I can guarantee you a lot of cops are not for BLM. But if I had a BLM sticker on my car and that gives you pause enough reason to discriminate against me as a cop, then you're just a terrible cop. Whereas if you say, hey, I don't want to associate with you, or I don't want to get into an Uber that has a BLM sticker on it, I'd be like, okay, I think you're racist, but everyone can have their criticisms about that. I don't know why he keeps trying to redirect the conversation to cops. That's not how that works. I actually don't play 2K, so whoever asked if I want to play 2K, I can't do that. Can you see my comments? Yeah. I got 3K, but I think I'm shadow banned. Any suggestions on the algorithm? I have no idea, because they be fucking with my algorithm constantly. So yeah, I don't know what his obsession is with trying to redirect this in a cop direction, but here. It's astounding to me that you don't realize how stupid of an argument that just was. To those of you keeping score at home, John Dawson made a response video to someone saying they wouldn't get in an Uber with a Trump 2020 flag at the back by saying, show me instances where Trump supporters just beat up black people in the name of Trump. Then T. Nathan did exactly that. Then your response is, I was wrong about the Trump supporters and the violence, but if you switch out Trump supporter with black, then oh my god, that sounds so bad. There's a clear-cut difference between not associating with someone because of a political opinion and not associating with someone because of their race. You can control what you believe in. You can't control your race. Not to mention political opinion. Notice what I said there. I said there's a clear difference between not associating with somebody because of a political opinion and not associating with somebody because of their race. He then goes on to switch my words and say, if we're going to discriminate against choices. That's not what I said. I said I am free to not associate with you over a political opinion. You are free to not associate with me over a political opinion. Never did I once say anyone can just discriminate based on choices. And me not wanting to associate with somebody based off their political opinion, or not wanting to get into an Uber, someone who is effectively my life is in their hand for however much time I'm going to be in the back of their car because they have a Trump sticker on their car, and I don't know what their opinion are on like minorities, and I can assume it's negative by the fact that they have a Trump sticker. That's not discrimination on my part. That's non-tolerance for people who support discrimination. And even then, it's not discrimination regardless, because it's me deciding not to associate with you because of your political opinion. Once you make that opinion known, I can do whatever course of action necessary to either not to avoid you, to try to change your mind, to whatever, as long as it's not like hurting you or something. And I can choose that I don't want to associate with you. But he reframed it in this conversation of that's discrimination against choices. What? Oh, TikTok was banned. Yeah, I saw. Do I play Madden? No, I don't. The only sport game I play realistically is MLB. How many people do we got here? Jesus, we got 54 people here.
Opinions tend to denote a certain set of moral values or characteristics. Being a Trump supporter requires you to not care about objective reality, not care about facts or evidence, not be bothered by racism or bigotry, etc. Whereas being black is a race. There's nothing inherent to... Well, unless you want to say that we're inherently violent, which you don't want to say that.
What if
So I thought that was done, and then he responded with this.
If you're going to use the argument where you can discriminate against things people choose, then half of your racism arguments are invalid.
And I also saw where he tried to, in the video that got taken down or whatever, his first response to me, he tried to bring up the transgender issue in that, oh, since we can discriminate against choices, then I can discriminate against trans people. First of all, various choices have separate gravity. First of all, a lot of trans people experience gender dysphoria, where they're not comfortable as the gender that they were assigned at birth, or the sex they were assigned at birth, which leads to a lot of mental issues for them, which is why the suicide rate spikes and stuff like that. So a lot of the times, no, they can't control their transness. Like most of unless you just haphazardly decided to socially transition, and even if you socially transition, that's you making a choice about who you are as a person and how you want to express yourself as a person. So we're talking about the choice to carry a Trump sticker or a Trump flag on your car compared to the choice of somebody to change their entire presentation about themselves and how they express themselves to the world. If you think that those choices are equal, you're a fucking idiot. Now, if you want to say that, hey, okay, well, we can discriminate against choices, so I'm going to discriminate against your choice to switch your gender identity, okay, you're going to face all the repercussions of that. Because you changing your gender identity is not exactly. It's not a choice. No, being trans is not a choice. And if you are one of the few people who don't experience gender dysphoria and you just decide to socially transition, still, it's not necessarily a choice because that's how you feel most comfortable as a person. So, you can say that, you can try to equivocate and say the choice of me carrying a Trump flag in my car and the choice of socially transitioning or being transgender is enough for me to say, okay, I can discriminate. Well, you're just an idiot then. Like, you can deal with the backlash of that. What? I don't understand it. And then he deleted that video. And then he says this.
Like, I don't know, police brutality. George Floyd, he chose to spend the $20 bill, and he also chose to be on drugs.
It's as if your mental process is like shut down at a certain point before you decided to get on TikTok. Because you just compared a black person not feeling comfortable enough to get into an Uber with someone who has a Trump sticker, somebody who's an open and known racist, with a black man winding up dead over a counterfeit $20 bill. Like I said in my previous video, your political positions tend to denote a certain amount of moral characteristics or values. You having Trump anything shows that you're comfortable aligning with a fascist and a racist, even though I know you don't think he is. But there's the anti-intellectualism that's very common in Trump supporters. Based on that characteristic, I am free to judge or not associate myself with you. You show me what characteristic using a counterfeit $20 bill displays where people are now free to publicly execute somebody for doing it. Whereas I'm free to criticize you for your Trump sticker, you're not free to kill somebody because they used a $20 bill that was counterfeit. Oh, and not feeling safe around or wanting to be associated with somebody over a political opinion is not discrimination. Once you make that opinion known, you're fair game for criticism. And if your opinion is racist, I won't tolerate you. Tough.
So, yeah, first of all, you can't compare George Floyd's choice to spend a $20 bill, which I believe was found out to be real. So it was a bad choice that he happened to spend money that was counterfeit or not, and it resulted in him dying. this doesn't hold any water, because then you would have to then be saying, because the whole thing that I said was, I am free to not associate with you over a political opinion. Now you're saying cops are free to kill people because they chose to spend counterfeit money in George Floyd's situation? What? That doesn't fucking make sense. So no, your analogies would have to track. You can't say, I can't say that, hey, if you're going to choose to fly a Trump flag, I can choose not to associate with myself with you. And then your response is, well, if George Floyd is going to choose to spend money, cops can choose to publicly execute him via knee on the back or on the neck? Where does this track? Where? I'm the only person who thinks it's literally insanity that people still post Donald Trump is my president. Like, exactly. Like, the Obama is my president thing was kind of a meme for, like, the first few months after the election. And now it's kind of like you see an old clip of Obama talking. You're like, oh, he had charisma. I miss when that was a thing. And now Joe Biden's president. Nobody's really talking about Obama's presidency. Like, but these people still fly Trump 20. Like, there's no Democrat who's flying Obama 2008, Obama 2012 stuff. It's a code of personality. No one's flying Hillary shit. She lost. Like, fascism. Cult of personality, all that. So I don't know what his plan is. Let me check my Instagram DMs, because as far as I'm concerned right now, he didn't message me back saying for sure yes or no we're going to debate. So I'm going to join his live. I don't know how his live works. I'm going to join, and then I'm going to talk, I guess, and we'll see where it goes. I don't know if it's just I have to type a question, or I get to say a question, and he gets to give, like, his own measured response, or if it's actually a discussion. Did you miss anything? Nah, I just kind of went over the videos that I made about this guy over the last couple days. My dad left. He said he's going to get milk. When y'all think he's coming back? I have no clue, bro. Like, oh, wait, he's texting me back. Let's see what he says. Imagine getting almost. Like, I appreciate y'all so much. Like, it's common sense to me here. Okay, there's a, alright, this is a live discussion, so we'll see. I'm gonna DM this to myself. Let's see here. I love your videos. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's not what I wanted to. Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Alright, let's go here. So we are getting ready for this debate, I guess. Is this in focus? I need to make sure it's in focus. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. I'll be joining in at 8, and everything. Kind of controversial, but what do you think of Nas's new song? I haven't actually heard Nas's new song. He still makes music, for real? How are you gonna say I have the right not to associate with you because of a political opinion is okay, but then he brings up the death of George Floyd, someone who was publicly executed over, yeah. I can't give y'all a house tour, because this kind of like my PC setup. You guys have seen enough parts of my house through, like, TikTok. But, like, yeah, you can't... Me not associating with another individual over their political opinion is nowhere comparable to the police, officers of the state, people with uniquely high positions of power in how the society runs, offhandedly murdering somebody over a counterfeit $20 bill for no discernible reason because he wasn't posing a threat, other than he was like a big burly black dude and he might pose a threat in the future if we let him get up. Like, where is it going to be on? Here? He has a podcast episode that is recording. I don't know how he does that. You're going to have to check out his links, but I'm going to be filming my perspective. Where's the debate going to be? Right here. You're here. You're at the place. In a few minutes. I'm a big black... You know there's actually been studies that show, like, black people are actually perceived as larger than they actually are. Like, it was like you take a black person and a white person of the exact same, like, height and weight and everything, and the black person's often looked at as bigger. For literally no fucking reason, mind you. I'm finna share out this information for this debate on my social media. Depends. Do you have $20? Share. Copy link. I like that on Instagram, once you hit like 10K followers or whatever, you get to do web links, which is super helpful. I appreciate all the support, no kappa. We're going to continue growing. I think they finally resolved the problem with TikTok and their constant banning me. Ever since I first made my videos about Rebecca, I've literally been getting spam banned almost every single day, and that was back in February. We're about to hit the end of March, so they've literally been like spam banning me. As of right now, they've gotten everything fixed, so let's pray I just stay unbanned, because they've definitely hurt my channel. I'd probably be at like 700, 800,000 if I kept posting and growing at the rate I was before they started post-banning me. But nevertheless, we here and we move. Wristone froze. Wristone froze. Sorry, I'm just posting this, getting the word out. You're 15 and 6'4". Holy shit. 14 and 5'11". What is wrong with y'all? How are y'all tall? I'm 5'6" and a half. How are y'all tall? Imagine being tall. Frickin' genetics. Oh, our school football team won. That's cool. So we slaughtered them 57-14. That is yikes. The Robert E. Lee High School news? Yeah, all them racist old white people in Florida coming out of their shells talking about, hey, don't blame us for slavery, because if they hadn't gotten them from the African tribes, back in Africa, there would be no slaves here. It's almost as if people forget how geopolitics works, right? You're a European power with like control over half the world, and you want to make trades with these African like kingdoms and everything, which are warring with each other. They're not one monolith. They're not like, oh, I'm gonna sell my brother into slave. They're warring with each other, so they're holding prisoners of war. And of course, part of the global trade at the time was people, so they're gonna trade black people too in Africa. What do you think they were going to do? Just say no to Spain and Britain and the other European powers at the time? Do you know what would have happened? Like, I don't want to make it as if, like, oh, the Africans had no choice but to sell. But what were they going to do? What was going to happen if they would have said no? Do you not think that the European powers were going to invade them and do it themselves? Because they've already been doing that. They were colonizing Africa at the time. They were prisoners of war. Of course they're not going to think twice before sending them off to some unknown location. They didn't know that it was about to be 200-something years of chattel slavery, where in Africa, if you were a slave, chances were you were a POW, or you were enslaved to some member of the government or whatever because you had debts to repay. Whereas in America, it was you were born as a slave if you were black, by the fact that your parent was a slave. And that continued for generations. The fuck did you think was gonna happen? Yeah, yes, the various African kingdoms were all gonna stand up and say no to fucking Spain and France that had control over half the world. Yes, okay. So don't try to hit me with that bullshit. Oh, well, they sold themselves. Stop it. They didn't sell themselves. As far as they were concerned, the people that they were selling were enemies, which is why they're prisoners of war. Africa is not a monolith. Africa has its own divisions and class hierarchies and everything too. It's a continent. Exactly, the POWs, at least the prisoners of war, weren't seen as property. That was something unique to chattel slavery afterwards that began during the slave trade, especially in America. They weren't seen as people. Yep. In the comments of the video by Wave Rider Free Press, he was justifying slavery. Wow, it's hilarious. I saw the little thing about the Robert E. Lee High School thing and like how the old ass people just came out of nowhere who were, I mean, not out of nowhere, they obviously lived there, but they were trying so hard to justify slavery and justify keeping the name Robert E. Lee on the school. And I was like, that is shocking. They really do think Africa is just one group of people, because as far as they're concerned, that's how it still is. Even though there's 50-something countries, I think 55 countries in Africa. Each of them having their different backgrounds, different histories, everything. But there was one thing that all of them have in common, though. They were colonized by Europeans. Except for, like, Liberia and Ethiopia. Which is interesting because my dad's from Liberia, and Liberia was like an American colony, basically. Not an American colony, but they basically sent all the free black people from. That's how I know I'm direct descendants of like former slaves, because if you were a former slave and you got your freedom or everything, they basically just sent you to Liberia at one point in America because they thought that the blacks can't integrate into white society, so have them start their own society. They literally Liberia is America's attempt at doing an ethno-state in order to like keep slavery. So people in my family were sent there. My dad was born there, so which is why they speak English. And I was just looking more into the history of that country, and apparently they had 2 civil wars. They do think Africa is a country. You saw the Bible quote, dude. He was talking about how Jesus allowed slavery. Yeah, I saw that. He said Jesus himself didn't condemn slavery. That's something that like leftists and like atheists use against Christians. We're like, dude, slavery was allowed in your book. And they're like, well, actually, blah, blah. And then they like get upset. This dude just straight up owns it. He's like, Jesus didn't condemn slavery. So, like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? You gonna say you hate black people, just say that then. Say that then. I appreciate the compliment about me being smart. I like that. Thank you. Had the audacity. Like, literally, you should be citing the fact that, like, slavery was tacitly allowed, not tacitly allowed, but allowed in the Bible as a bad thing. This dude, that's when you know you've hit a completely different level of I don't like black people, when you're just flat out saying it wasn't allowed and it should have been that way. Like, I mean, it was allowed and it should have stayed that way. Like, Jesus. Yeah, they do use the rules of religion as morality, which is something I cannot stand under any circumstance. And then he blamed it on diabetes. He blamed it on diabetes? Oh my Lord, have mercy. These people. It is 7:58. Well, he hasn't gone live yet, so I don't think, at least. I don't know. My mom's from Guyana, and people really think that Caribbean is just Jamaica, Cuba. Yeah, the Caribbean is massive. There's a bunch of islands and stuff. That's why people. The only reason why people be remembering Jamaica and the Bahamas is because freaking, freaking Usain Bolt. Honestly, there are people who still think that Chicago is, well, Illinois is in Chicago. Like, you'd be surprised at how little many Americans know about geography. Have I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier? No. Parents are from Trinidad and Tobago. That's what's up. My parents are from Jamaica and Liberia. As I'm typing this, you thankfully have around estimated 117,000 more followers than Rebecca White. Let's go! And she's verified, you're not. Thoughts on opinions on that? I don't know what TikTok's random ass system is for verification. I think they verified her because she's been like on Musical.ly/TikTok since like 2016, and I guess when they're first handing out verifications, they just gave her one for fun. But the fact that she's been on here for 2016 and that's her numbers, and I've done that, I've gotten past her and did her numbers basically in less than a year, because this blowing up stuff really started in 2021. Is shocking. The fact that they still have yet to verify me is shocking. I don't know if they'll ever do that. There are creators with 1 million who talk about issues like I do, and they still aren't verified. Anthony I Speak still isn't verified. Conscious Lee still isn't verified. I don't know, but they are A-okay giving checkmarks to these white creators who turn out to be racist. I'm going to click this link and see if we're going to get started in here. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Okay. Mic is working. Okay. Alright, they're not going to be able to hear my camera. Okay. I see my camera. That's fine. Alright.
A lot to discuss. So we got JJ here. JJ, I'm going to bring you up here in a minute. If you can just be a little patient, I promise I'll get you. Oh, he can disconnected. King Zay. So our conversation was about the music industry. So just to give everybody listening, my take on the music industry was that we have a #1 song, and I'll correct myself because I was wrong, a #1 music video, which is Mockingbird by crap, I forgot her name. Miranda Lambert. And then we have a #1 music video by Meg Thee Stallion in the hip hop and rap category. When you put those songs together, you see a clear difference between message. One is saying I have control over my life.
Okay, so right now, They're discussing something that has nothing to do with me. It's me with these guys. American flag is cringe. American flag is cringe. And yeah. Right now I'm currently backstage and they'll add me in whenever, but yeah, they're talking about something with rap music that I can't be bothered to listen to, so. Wait, you can definitely hear. I don't know if you can hear what's going on in my headphones, but. Am I able to join? No. He sent me the link, so. I look so much younger than I am because I am so much younger than them. What up, Sidjoy? How you doing? Their nonsense makes me lose brain cells, gets annoying. Yeah, that's why I'm trying not to listen to their discussion right now. I don't know when they're gonna bring me in, but I'm gonna let them know that my camera doesn't work. So. Am I a leftist? If so, what type? I am a leftist. I'm not really settled on any particular ideology, but I lean more towards libertarian socialism. I'm more in the boat with like Vosh. Vosh goes further than me when it comes to like gender stuff. Not even really, because I'm kind of down with the whole gender abolition thing, but I'm not well versed enough in that to speak about it. But I'm basically more in line with him. So like yeah, more libertarian socialism, but I'm not like settled on anything yet. He's actually 27 and has 4 MLB contracts. Don't expose my secrets, Joy. You should debate Tyler Bluntman. I probably will never debate Tyler Bluntman because he gets bodied religiously and he's very disingenuous. I mean, but this guy's probably disingenuous too, but. Oh Lord, they're ranting about the black media and music and shit about it being degenerate. I'm exaggerating, but not really. You got this debate for sure. True. I don't know if they're gonna have all these other people chime in while I'm speaking, but if I got a 4v1, I'll 4v1. This dude has a heavy southern accent, the one who's talking on the screen right now. It's crazy. This dude's wearing a 1776 Project hat. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's full Kool-Aid. Bring a partner like Victoria. Nope, I did not. I think this guy's debating him on the music culture stuff. He made a good point there. We can't hear him. No, yeah, like I'm not. I mean, do y'all want to hear what they're talking about? I'm not in the debate yet. This man has a TikTok cup, and he's been saying the bullshit he's been saying. Do y'all want to hear what they're talking about? All right. Okay.
You know, successful black men that have made something of yourselves. So you shouldn't be grouped in with the screw ups. And you know, I just moved my family, my wife and my two kids from Alabama down here to Florida. I'm actually taking the test in the next couple weeks to get back into law enforcement and corrections.
Let's
So
go.
you know, yeah.
Let's go,
So-
man. That's dope.
So you know, that's my dream and my passion.
What's my battery
Spend
at?
time
I just don't want my
with
camera battery to
and,
die. That's gonna
you
be
know,
annoying.
Instead of going back to college, I've worked. So that's what I'm saying. When a white person does something, they're able to be an individual. Versus
Good
when
point.
a black person does something, they try to group it and make.
Can I
it
tell you why?
community.
So when you look at a white person, I completely understand, and it's unfair, and that's why when I say like you guys, I might specify like the oppressed black person, because and I don't mean it in a
Oh,
negative
Lord
way,
have
but it's
mercy.
like, I wouldn't say black people and mean Craig Long if I was talking about people who thought they're oppressed. I know Craig doesn't think that, right? Not anymore, at least. So I mean, and people take offense to when you say, you know, oppressed black people versus conservative, whatever. But the reason that the black people are lumped together is because
Oppressed
we, more
black
than any other
people.
culture, cling to our own regardless of good or bad. Whereas white people, you can see them doing anything in life and they don't lose their whiteness, right? If a white person starts listening to rap music, wearing Jordans and whatnot, they're still white. If a black person starts wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and working on a farm, all of a
False.
sudden they've lost their
Whoa,
identity as a
that's
black person. You
kind
don't
of
say, "Oh,
false.
you lost your white card." You say, "Oh, you lost your black card." So
It depends on who you're talking to, because a lot of white people will say you lost your white card. Whiteness in the history of whiteness in this country has been exclusionary. That's why when you see a mixed child, they're referred to as black and not white. That's why when you see a white person mixed with like Hispanic, or white person mixed with Asian, white person mixed with black, they're referred to as white. I mean, no, they're referred to as black or Hispanic or Asian. They're not referred to as white. Because whiteness in the history of the country has been exclusionary. So that's bullshit that you don't lose your white card, whereas black people lose their black card if they... What? Okay.
believe anything anybody tells us if it sounds even remotely too good. So whenever I say black people, like rap music is depicting black culture, whereas Miranda Lambert, I still think she's depicting white culture, but she is a standalone.
There is no
because
white
she can do
culture.
what she wants. That's kind of where I'm fighting for. That's kind of what I'm fighting for. Is saying when a black kid listens to a rap song that's written by black people, performed by black people, whatever, they're remote, regardless of how intelligent they are, they're going to internalize that because they see a lot of black people, majority of black people, in the rap game doing the same thing. So it's depicting a culture. The same reason why a white person will see a white person in
What do you
country
mean
music
internalize?
depicting the same thing, and they're going to gravitate towards that. That's why we still have this divide of white country people and inner city black people.
Oh,
So
yeah, without a doubt, believe me, I love my cowboy boots
and that's
the
what I'm
whole
saying.
nine.
Yeah, Craig, you have
He's not strong
Yeah,
enough.
I just wanted to add to it. And King Zay, so, and I see where you're going at with it. My question to you would be, let's just talk about hip hop, right?
Okay.
As a whole, hip hop compared to when hip hop first started, compared to hip hop today. And I'm known for saying this, hip hop today seems more like suicidal poetry with great beats, right? And I say that for a reason. They really are talking about their pains and their day-to-day lives before they actually got a record deal or had the
And even while they have a record deal.
the fame that they accomplished.
Why are you wasting time on idiots? I'm only here to
We
debate
compare
John.
the hip hop, the music. It doesn't matter if it was R&B, hip hop rap. If we compare it to when it first started off, it was very conscious. It was very uplifting. It was get up, get out, and do something, right? It was that type of music compared to what we have today. It is very suicidal poetry with good beats.
It was get out and do. Have you listened to
John
Tupac?
said, whenever you, in your music, you glorify stop snitching campaigns.
Have you listened to
there's
Tupac?
a lot of innocent people in those minority communities that are affected by that. That's destructive. It's a destructive part of our culture, right? Not all of our culture is destructive, but it is a destructive part of our culture. Whenever you have
You mean
know,
past
shooting
hip hop?
gang,
You mean the
taking
same
out-
guy who was like, "That's why I fuck your bitch, you fat motherfucker," to Biggie? That was the get out and do something? There are many elements of hip hop that have changed. But some shit has not changed. Don't get it twisted.
Us as a community as a whole, and it may not represent all of us. And where
10
I would
times a
go
lot.
with
Wait,
that
how
is
many live viewers
just
does he have?
because you said it, it doesn't represent all of us, right?
How many live viewers
Why
does
don't
John have?
the rappers, why don't the people creating this poetry, right, glorify investing? Because a lot of these rappers
Merch, we got
that
90 here.
gangster music, that mentality, they glorify it. Behind the scenes, they're making moves like a lot of us on this panel are doing. They're in real estate, they're doing real estate investing, they're in stocks, they're doing a lot of things that right now with the narrative of there's something that holds people of minority back. There's some type of supremacies going around and holds us back. There's a lot of investments that can care less about what color you are. Right, so I'm known.
I'm surprised all these guys have these good ass lighting. That's what that conservative money would do for you.
It's a universal principle, right? It cares nothing about what color you are, what creed. How
he got like 8. Are you dead ass?
Short, fat. It doesn't care about anything about the person besides if you are making the intellectual decisions and taking the risks and learning the new skills and then applying yourself and adding value to the marketplace. So my question to you, comparing.
That was a long ass diatribe just to get to a question.
Very, very uplifting. Good
thoughts on self-segregation based at this point.
Now refer to as conscious rap.
Probably 4 viewers, which are all of them.
How he kind of dropped off compared to what we have today. Why don't these artists, these rappers, these poetic people make songs about that versus, hey, we need the WAP, pick up the firearm, go on the corner, stop snitching campaigns. I went to go.
Have you listened to 90s rap?
Mexico, you know what I mean? The things that are so glorified on the television that we all know affects and influences our youth, whether it's white, black, Spanish.
I wish I was in this conversation. He only got 8. Oof.
It's actually influencing the world, right? So my question to you would be that. How, knowing from when it first started to compare today, do you not see that, hey, maybe this is starting to shift and it's really highlighting a lot of things that could be having a negative impact? And the reason why I believe that it affects
this is a long ass question
more than it would be any other race groups, right, is because those are some of the pains that some of us live in. Those are, a lot of us can identify with some of those things, right? Which,
yeah.
Why are you taking so long to ask a question? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you had, even back in, the 80s and the, when rap really first got started in the late 80s and stuff like that, you had NWA, you had Run DMC. So you had a mix because, NWA.
He is saying a lot of nothing.
Stuff like that. So you had it, but it was more, the playing field was more even. So you had that aspect of it, but then you also had the conscious rappers.
Mm-hmm.
As of today, you have more of the, I guess the street rap gets pushed more than the conscious rap does. I guess that's the best way I could put it, is because I can't say why it is, but it is. When you look at,
I will say that's true in the aspect that it's way easier to like make a hit nowadays. But don't get it twisted. Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and stuff have been off for a minute. I feel like the rap that they're talking about is a lot more easier to do, and it happens way more often. But when conscious rappers drop, it's still like, you know how many Grammys Kendrick Lamar won?
Specifically called out Jay-Z and Beyonce, and people don't. I was in the music industry for about 3 years and actually hit rock bottom because of some of these exact reasons. And the reason a lot of these artists go on drugs is because their life is not theirs. You do not own it. Once you sell out, you sell out, and you do exactly what they tell you. You create what you create. That's why I'm calling out the Jay-Z's and Beyonce's. They have a monopoly over the hip hop and rap industry. They
don't. People aren't listening to them like that.
Influence, but at the same time, they own what they own,
which
They're
is
not the only.
Look at their investments. Look at the fingers that they have in Atlantic Records, in Def
No, no,
Jam.
that's what I'm saying. They own what they own, and they have their fingers in what they have their fingers in. But they don't run the entire industry. They run a portion, a chunk of it. Even if it's 51-49, whatever the percentage is, they do run a big portion of it. But even if you look at Jay-Z's rap music in recent years, it's been more of a conscious rap than it was early in his career. Early in his career, he was talking about selling dope, getting money, all that.
But even then, in his early years, I love that, man, because he still gave intellectual thought. Like, I'm a businessman.
But
that line still hits me today.
It's gone from that.
He's still
the push to you know his what was it 444.
Oh, I remember that.
I still think he dabs and puts some in there, but he's still a part of the machine. He's just positioned himself now to putting on the Megan Thee Stallions, and he's profiting off of the suicidal poetry with good beats.
Yeah.
So imagine this, King. If you're an executive or if you're a club promoter, which is what basically Beyonce,
they're not gonna let you in. Yeah,
J. Cole,
I don't know what their plan is.
Cardi B, all of them go through Jay-Z and Beyonce. Yeah. They all do. So if you are a club promoter and you only reach out to people that are rapping about the black community as if we're a sexualized culture, wouldn't that be directly correlated to your choices? Whereas he had J. Cole in the palm of his hand. He brought J. Cole.
Wait.
As soon as J. Cole's...
Am I lost? When is Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B rapping about the black culture as a sexualized community? Aren't they just sexualizing themselves? When are they sexualizing the black community? Like, if you hear rock and country lyrics sometimes, they be rapping about a watered down version when it comes to sex and stuff of the same stuff that rap music is. Have you heard rock lyrics? They're sexualizing themselves. They're not sexualizing the black community. That's the difference that the dude said earlier that he was right. When white people do shit, they're seen as individuals. You'll never hear them talking about the sexualization that happens in rock and country. But when black people do it, it's a group. You're sexualizing the black community, not yourself. The fuck?
Black people down the river. I mean, we don't understand that, and they want to call Craig Long and I these sellouts and these whitewash people when we're just like, stop buying it. You keep buying the stuff that they're selling, which is the music, the ideology, the mindset that you need to have these things and spend this money on this. And we're like, yo, buy a house, stop renting. And they're like, whitewashed. And that's what I mean by the music.
Buy a house, stop renting. Just buy a house.
Where they could make
just buy a house.
They choose to either go for money.
We just came out of a fucking 100-year pandemic. Like once in 100 years. Just buy a house. We live under capitalism. Just buy a house. The minimum wage hasn't changed since 2009. Buy a house. Alright.
It was nobody, the same people, because it's funny, the same people that are in my opinion,
I wish he was stronger, bro.
From
King
outside of the black community that are bashing Meg and Cardi are the exact same people that grew up listening to Madonna, listening to Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. You know, white women who did the exact same stuff. Yeah. Like, you know, it's the same type thing.
Yep, good point.
You know, me and her, you know, she's 9 years younger than me, but we were having a back and forth, and she made a great point to me. And it's something that everybody does, no matter what side that they take on this issue in the black community. And this is coming from a 20-year-old sophomore in college. She goes, why do we always talk about the negatives? Why do we always highlight the negatives in our community?
What's positive about the hip hop that we have today?
No, but it's not just hip hop.
I can come up with a lot of things that are positive.
She's talking about people like us that sit around and talk about it. She goes, we always highlight the bad. Why don't we highlight the doctors, the lawyers, the business on a higher scale? Now you'll get like John, you'll promote your business, Craig, you'll promote your stuff, but instead of getting on TikTok and talking about oh, you know, Meg and Cardi did this. Cause look, I don't agree with the song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's too much for me. The song is too much for me. It's not like I'm gonna hop in my truck and put it on and jam out on the way to work or the gym. I'm not gonna do it. But she just like it was just so much wisdom from someone who is just now starting to live life.
Joy's
Like, we
family
always
buys a house.
highlight
House burns
the
down.
bad in the black.
No more
Even from people
Fortnite.
that are even from
Poverty
people that are trying to
non-existent.
make a difference.
Drug war just
and
stopped.
uplift the black
How have you
community.
not
You know,
unmuted yet? They
well,
haven't
look at
brought
what
me
they
in
did
yet.
that was bad and terrible.
It says I'm
Look at
backstage.
this
You can't see it because the
fucking
chat's
video
blocking it, but it says
instead of
only the host
talking
can see
about
me.
the people that are doing positive.
I'm sat here
things.
waiting.
Yeah.
And so it's giving me a different outlook in, you know, from the conversation of, you know, I want to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if the way I'm making a difference, if that's me getting on here saying, well, you know, this white person said this or negative about the black community, or these people are judging the black community for this, or whatever, or if it's John getting on saying, hey, look at
What
this
time zone am I in?
negative
I'm
music
in
from our
Central
community,
Standard Time.
instead of going, hey, you know, we've got this guy who just started a business or just graduated. You know, I got two guys that I played high school football with. They're twin brothers. They just graduated medical school.
Nice. That's crazy.
That's who we should be highlighting. These are two young 28-year-old black men who, with dreads down their back, that if the wrong person saw them, would think they were a thug, that are doctors.
Medical,
They're
right?
doctors.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, Craig. I think you're gonna
Anecdotes.
say what I'm about to say. But King's A, first, I just want to say I agree with you, and that's why I started the mentality of much love, is because when I talk about these hard subjects, like you right now, King, us having this conversation is showing the good. Us sitting down and having an informed, intelligent conversation is exactly the good that needs to be seen, right? But Craig, I know you're gonna say about what I'm about to say.
Have I started talking yet? No, I haven't even been brought on the broadcast yet.
I appreciate you bringing it up. I have to admit, and I'll go on record saying it, that, you know, on TikTok, you only got like 59 seconds to try to make a point. And TikTok does seem to have some toxicity going on both sides, right? So that's something that I'm literally in the works of shifting on my page, right? And if you look, I've been starting to post a lot of the IG panels that I do with topic discussions that I do with other people. I start to try to push those out there. But I guess what I want to say is, if we go back and we look at people like John and myself, right, and Blue Collar, I would love to get your input here in a minute. I don't want you to feel we left you out. I definitely would love to have your input and know your perspective. People like John and myself, what are conservatives that are just so happen black, what are we known for always saying that the left or people that are opposing to our opinion or stance don't like about us? We always say, hey, you know, regardless if you feel something is holding you back, you can still strive for excellence. You can still work hard. There is a lot of opportunities here in America. Those
not what they say.
Positive messages, but because people are at,
it's not what they say. They gaslight about the reality of the situation.
Stance, or maybe it's our presentation or deliver, which I'm trying to get better at. It goes over their head, and mostly my message is that if everybody knows my story, like I come from the hood, I've made my bad decisions, I've served time, I've come home with nothing, I've built myself up to a business owner that has a substantial success.
Anecdotes.
And I'm telling other people that, hey, there's a blueprint here. I'm one of many.
If you're blind, then just see.
Minorities in this country, in America, that has made themselves successful following those universal principles of success, which is work hard, stay diligent, don't quit, learn new skill, apply those skills, and add value to the marketplace. Those are positive messages. Now, we do kind of go back, because sometimes I guess, and it's the same on the other side, we get irritated when we say, when I see people push the narrative of Emmett Till in
Huh.
2021,
Lord
I don't
have
think we
mercy.
should forget about Emmett Till. But what's the solution? How does it help people of minority today with the opportunities that they have? So I think we do push a positive message, but we do also combat the things that we feel
They make me want to dip out. This shit's annoying.
may not be necessary, or we're trying to get people to say, hey, look,
If you're starving,
You know,
just go to the fridge.
like right now, I'll say there's a lot of what I feel is anti-white, right? It seems like there's an anti-white, anti-American narrative that is going on.
Anti-white, anti-American. Notice how those are
I
synonymous?
speak out a lot on that, right? When it comes
You can't simultaneously say black people aren't oppressed and you guys have all the opportunities while simultaneously putting anti-American with anti-white in the same sentence. You're saying it's a white country and then berating minorities when they speak out against the fact that it is.
Can be one, but I think at the same time you can look. Even I know there's been interactions I've had with John where there's been people come to my page that spew racism. You know, it's going to happen. I get that it's going to happen, but it's in today's age. I don't know if I would necessarily call it an anti-whiteness move as much as I would say some people. There's some microaggressions.
It's anti-racist, not anti-white.
Slide that they're just not going to let slide anymore.
I understand. Let me ask you this, King Zay. If I constantly told you, hey, you stole my wallet, do you think over time you will start to get irritated that I continue to say that you stole my wallet when maybe you didn't steal my wallet? Do you think that over time that would irritate you?
Yeah, but if within the same breath, if I always told you, hey, you screwed up, this is all you're gonna be, you would start not.
What the fuck? If there was documented evidence that you did steal the wallet, and I told your ass, you stole my wallet, give me that shit back, we need to work towards getting that shit back because you made me go X amount of years without having a wallet, and I need that, so give me that back. We need to start working towards that. And you sit here and act dumbfounded as, oh, I didn't steal your wallet. Why are you saying this? You lost your wallet. Pick yourself up by your wallet straps. You lost it. Fuck no. I would look and say there's scientific proven evidence, documented evidence that you stole my fucking wallet. And now you're sitting here denying the truth. You're coming from the perspective saying, oh, you're telling me I stole your wallet even though I might not have stole the wallet. It's not a might. This is settled. Systemic racism exists. It's settled. Talking about fucking maybe I didn't steal the wallet. Alright. You've been caught in 4K stealing the wallet.
JJ with, but I think,
bet.
and I want to say this because I think it's really important to point out, and maybe I'm biased, but Kingsley, I want to know if you see it as well. When I look at people like Craig Long and myself, I haven't once seen a black conservative condemn or name call a left black person. They've been harsh. They've called things as it is, but they've never said, you're a coon. I would never shake your hand. You're this, you're that. It's always been, stop thinking the way you're thinking because you are so much better than that. So yes, because of our stance, because of the American flag behind us, people stop listening. But not once have we ever said, yeah, I would just avoid contact with you. Never once. If anybody walks up to me with an opposing opinion, I'm not going to call them a goofy. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to say, let's talk it out, just like I'm doing here with you now. So sometimes we bring up the negative because so many people have been so soft on the black community, right? Well, and I hate this because it happened in football before I started training hard. My first year in high school, my coach would never talk to me. I would screw up and he wouldn't care. And it drove me nuts because another kid would screw up and he would care, which means he thought that guy had more in him. So whenever I see someone talk to the black community and they see something and they don't want to call a spade,
oh, Lord have mercy.
That to me is their internal racism saying that's about as good as they can do. I'm not going to encourage them to do more. But Craig Long and I see somebody that's screwing up, that's messing up. Craig Long knows he lived exactly through this thing. He said, I'm going to be a nobody. This is all I'm ever going to be worth. And then he said, wait, no, that's not right. As a matter of fact, I need to hold myself to a higher standard. I don't need to blame it on the oppression. I don't need to wear this victim.
Oh my
I need
God.
to be better. And that's the only message that we're pushing out there.
Bring me
and
in.
It's falling on a lot of deaf ears because we've been coddled for so long. We've been told, oh, systemic racism, redlining, which are all true. I'm not going to deny it. History is history. But at some point, someone needs to put their foot down and say, look, I know it's not fair. I know you feel like you can't. But at this point in time, we need to stop waiting for someone else to do it. We need to do it ourselves. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
And I agree with that. I don't think it is. Do I think that everything that
Get me in there with him, bro, because he needs help.
The history of America.
He's
has put
capitulating
a lot
too
of
much.
People in a bad situation. Yes, it has. You can't deny that. Now it's the only thing I would say about y'all, because you're right. I've never seen either one of the two of you go at it from that sense of bashing in the way of name calling, things like that. I've never seen it once from the two of you. Now, have I seen it from other black conservatives? Yes. There's several that I've had interactions with that come with that narrative. But my biggest thing is you attract more flies with honey than you do vinegar. And that's just always been my narrative and the way I push. I don't think it's wrong to speak out about things that have happened or anything like that. But, you know, me and you butted heads on the bicycle helmet comment. But and
I don't know what they're referencing.
I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from.
The Orioles are trash.
But there's going to be a lot more people than me. Because, I mean, I was raised in a conservative household. My dad played college ball. He played in the pro.
Transition to me.
He's been a pastor.
Transition to me. Bring me in.
Something years. You know, I have very conservative. My core values are very conservative. It's just that some people aren't going to be acceptive to the bicycle helmet.
Well, and that's
just like
the
the Democratic plantation.
Yeah, but that wasn't a bicycle helmets talking bad on the black community. That was bicycle helmets talking bad on the corporations, putting them on our heads for us.
I get what your message is, but I'm saying is you're not going to have someone that thinks like you're somebody that doesn't think like me.
Yeah,
sees that comment.
I can see that,
and it's immediately
turn off. Yeah,
boom. They cut their ears off. It's falling on deaf ears immediately with those type of comments. And so that's my point when I see people that are just, and I fall somewhere in the middle on.
Yeah, Ben hasn't said a single word.
A lot of when I see black people that are conservatives, it's don't. You don't like being called a coon or a sellout or you lost your black card. Well,
I really don't.
Black people that think different.
I don't care.
But the majority, like
I get what you're saying though. Yeah.
But
definitely.
the majority, the black people that fall on the other side of the spectrum, they don't like hearing, "Oh, you're stuck on the Democratic plantation. You're stuck, wearing the bicycle helmet thing." Like just because certain people hear things differently, and certain people receive things differently, and it's probably a minority.
See what he says.
Not probably, it is a minority of the black community that's going to see that in that fact.
All right, bet.
All right, hey, so I'm actually gonna bring. If you want to stay on here, Kingsley, I'm actually gonna bring up JJ, which I think is what people call him. I'm just gonna add him to the stream. Let's see how do I get him to be seen?
Yeah, I'm here currently. My camera's being used by a different software, so I won't have my camera on.
All right, bet. Cool. I'm gonna go back to what we had. All right, cool.
Like a phone call.
So first, I want to finish up with King's A, bro. I appreciate you. I understand where you're coming from, and I do understand the catch more flies with honey than vinegar. I also feel like some people need to just call things out. I feel like a lot of people tippy-toe around things. I want to give blue collar. I'm going to point the wrong way.
Before you cut them, let me take a couple.
I want blue collar Ben's opinion.
Well, I mean, you guys both had some really good points about the music industry, and one of the first questions I would have is the type of music that's being pushed to the top of the charts. Is that demand driven, or is that done by some white producer somewhere that makes these decisions? It's probably a question we could all explore.
And it's probably a little bit of both.
Well, it's also consumption. Like, what do we like to consume? Obviously, they're going to sell what sells. So it has to do with our consumption patterns as well as what the executives want the narrative to be for that genre at this specific time.
Exactly, but that's the other side of it. If you push the J. Coles, if you push the Kendricks, if you push those type guys, if they're the guys getting the push, is that what's going to be wanted more?
I would think so, because they're not pushed, and you would be surprised at how many people know of them when you've never seen them on the radio or on your top 10 on YouTube. People seek that out. So if they didn't have to seek it out, more and more people would grasp it. And to be honest, you would start seeing the intellectual side of the Black community, which is my point with this whole thing. And people would be like, damn, like that's insane, because the way that a Black rapper can formulate thoughts and critical think is like nothing I've ever seen out of any other race, period. Yet they somehow silence that, which I'm telling you, as much as people think I'm crazy, it's definitely a conspiracy to keep that mindset out of these young kids to think, look, the popular stuff is going to be the glorifying of X, Y, and Z. And that's a detriment to us, because again, like people don't like to hear, we are a weak community in the sense that we have a lot of traumas in our past that are always playing with our emotions, to where they know we are the easiestly manipulated in America today. That's why politics are so heavy on the Black community, is because we are literally the head that can be turned wherever it's needed. And I'm telling people to stop that. That's why I love seeing Black conservatives, because it's different. That's why I love seeing people like you who are in the middle, who don't agree with me, but you don't agree with the left, because it just shows the difference of minds thinking completely different. And we're not this unison head turning one way or the other. We're dividing. We're understanding we can think for ourselves. And that's what I despise about the Democrats and how they use identity politics. That's what I despise about the music industry. They're using identity portrayals of our culture, and I think it's blatant that they're doing it specifically. That's my point with the music. They're not doing it to the white community, because the white community has no boundary of what they represent. They do. But they don't.
I also think the white community
the same thing.
I think the white community is a little different though, because most Black people, we don't have a tied heritage anywhere except America. So in that sense, we are more
because we're searching for our identity.
Versus, my sister-in-law's husband, he was
my camera died. Dang it!
Ireland. He's Irish. Parent, moved over here when he was a kid, so he has a direct tie to a different culture besides just American culture, and that's why I think you see a little bit difference when you see Africans that immigrate here, post the civil rights movement. It's a little different because they have a tie to something else other than America.
I mean, they have a different culture.
Yeah.
Their culture they don't have that American culture. That's why they thrive.
They don't have the trauma that is tied to it.
I mean, when you say trauma, that would mean I will also have to suffer from trauma. So
I think we all do to a certain degree.
If there's this mystical racist trauma dust floating around that's affecting minorities, why did it skip over John? Why did it skip over me? And why does it skip over so many other people, but they're successful but want to keep pushing the same thing that could be holding us back?
But did it skip over? Because like you said, you've had your issues with your past. Was that part?
Hip hop played a huge hip hop.
More breaking free than skipping over.
Yeah, it's more breaking free than skipping over. But even in today, John, you just recently cut your hair, correct?
Yeah. So
most states would allow people to tell you can't get a job unless you cut your natural hair.
Well, I mean, if you got
there's only like purple. 7 and I'm not and it's dreadlocks. It's
I had it in high school. I couldn't have hair a certain length, but other white kids could have hair. I couldn't have earrings because it was gang related, but white kids could. There's a lot of double standards.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's even stuff that still affects certain Black people today. And
it does. Yeah. And that's the thing. Neither one of us, neither Craig or I, are trying to say there aren't things. There's not obstacles. That's why I say life's not fair. That's why I blame it. Like, you're fixing the window that someone else broke. It's not your responsibility, but it is your life. But it is your life.
But that's what I'm saying. Where there's always, and I'm not saying it's an excuse, but there's also an understanding why some people still struggle with certain
and
things.
that is the basis of my entire message, is understanding there's something to overcome and telling people how they can, right? What is frustrating is when you say, look, I understand these issues, I understand history, I understand systemic racism, redlining, all the stuff that gets brought up, Black Wall Street, all that, I understand that, but at some point we need to overcome that. So it's not saying let it go, you're being a baby. It's saying, look, we got you. Like, we understand, and I compare it a lot to women. Like, if a woman gets raped when she's 17, that is oppression, right? She can either live life as if she's worth nothing more than that situation of rape, or she can choose to overcome that, find her self-worth, and live life and skyrocket. That is literally the same issue at a much smaller scale that the Black community goes through. There are issues, there are things you must overcome. We should, instead of dwelling on them and justifying our feelings of how we're less and people treat us as less, and let racists hold power with words over us, let it go, right? Let it go and understand we have all the self-worth possible inside of us and climb from there. So it's not discounting. No one here is discounting.
Yeah.
We're overshadowing positive so that people don't focus on the fact that life's not fair. There's a lot of white people out there that had some unfair circumstances.
Maybe you'll agree with this statement, and it sucks because I still have all 4 of them, but I have all 4 of my grandparents. My grandparents were born from 44 to 50. Damn. They grew up in a time of segregation where they were adults before they had rights. Both of my grandfathers served during Vietnam, and they were treated as less as a soldier and a member of the Air Force. So this might piss some people off, and as much as I love them, they carry a lot. They carry a lot from that time period. Yeah. And because it's how they were formed, their formative years were in that society, and that's that entire generation. When you look at it, I've heard the stories.
I couldn't imagine, man. I couldn't imagine.
I've heard the stories. My wife asked my grandfather this past August. We went up to see him. Like, asked my grandfather, my grandmother, just some stories about how it was growing up in Alabama during that time period. And one of them was a story I'd never heard. I had my great grandfather was beheaded by the KKK, and that's something that they've carried. They've carried for 55 years.
So So you said you grew up in a conservative household. Are they conservative?
My parents are. My mom and my dad are. My mom and my dad are very conservative. My parents voted for Trump. The whole nine.
So your grandparents are more like reserved from politics in general because they probably don't trust any of it, right?
Yeah, they're very reserved. But maybe once they're gone and you don't have an entire generation of people that on either side, black, white, whatever, that grew up in a time period where this country was legally separated, it'll start to free up things. And maybe when you see our kids
you're making a major point right now, and it would, but we're re-implementing it, and that is my biggest scare right now. Sorry, Craig, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's why I'm speaking out today. I've had these thoughts for years, never said about it, but when BLM came up at the beginning of the year, that was the implementation of the actual people who are racist, who have experienced legitimate segregation and racism, are dying off. What is the best way to re-implement in young minds like myself who have never experienced whites only anything? I grew up with Hispanic, Latino, Asian, black kids. How are they going to re-implement some type of movement where all of a sudden we're divided? Think about 2019. Do you feel like there was this much division between races in 2019?
Here, honestly, I take severe issue with this notion that we need to go to re-implementation, and that we have not I take, first of all, severe issue with the notion that these people are dying off. Ruby Bridges is like, what, 60 something years old, early 60s. These people aren't like dying off yet. The United States government has not atoned properly for the sins of the past in the generation where he was describing his grandparents grew up in, which is why a lot of people are still raised with that trauma. So you can't move into let's overshadow, let's overcome everything while preaching a message of just let it go when we have not atoned for it yet. You can't you can't enter a race 300 years behind another person and then tell them, hey, let's just move forward. Forget about the fact that you're 300 years in the past. We need to formally atone for it in that, like, for example, in like apartheid South Africa, they set up a commission on the injustices that happened against black people there, formally acknowledged that it was a thing, and then strided to move to make programs to atone for the gaps that were there. We are still having a debate as to whether or not racism is still alive or whether or not we should just go on and move on about it. That's the main issue.
Racism will always be alive. Racism will always be alive.
Yes, and the number one issue that I have is that when people try to belittle it or try to move along past it, we can advance, and a lot of people on the left do push a message of, yes, we need to stride individually, but the issue is we cannot have an individualist conversation about things that affect a demographic of people. You can have both conversations at the same time, what you can do in your personal life to overcome the various struggles that you have day to day, but you can also acknowledge that there's statistical evidence that certain people are treated certain ways for no good reason, and let's atone that while also making personal progress.
Can you give me one example of something that affects us today as minorities? Give me just one example.
Well, first of all, I know you guys will talk about redlining was outlawed in the 70s. There are still many ways in which that continues today. You can look that up. It's not necessarily, hey, you cannot live here if you're black, but various things like not giving enough job opportunity to various communities, thus driving down the average income of those communities, thus making it less likely that you're applicable for like loans and stuff like that.
Let's start from the beginning of that. Not giving opportunity. What do you mean by not giving opportunity to those neighborhoods?
As in, if you were grown up in a neighborhood or areas that were redlined, for example, and that is internally driving down, that is restricting heavily a lot of the opportunity that comes there. If you want to go to the Homestead Act, the greatest predictor of generational wealth is land. And black people were not given land, whereas white people were. In the Homestead Act, where they were literally just giving away land, black people were exclusively excluded for that. So when you're starting from a position of behind, first slaves were brought to North America in 1619. You can't then say when black people finally just now get legal rights in the 60s that now the 70 years afterwards is enough time to close that gap. You still have a lot to do, especially when the United States government hasn't done anything official to completely try to atone for it.
John, do you own land?
Yes, sir.
I own land. Did you go to prison?
No.
I went to prison.
Not prison.
Anecdotes.
I went to prison and I own land.
Anecdotes are not evidence.
Opportunity
Let me
country to get land.
Anecdotes are not evidence.
Go for it, Ben. Go for it, Ben.
I fully agree. Who's speaking? What's your name?
Me. Oh, I'm JJ.
JJ, what's up, man? No, I agree with that analogy that if America was a race, there were 300 years where black people they had to give everybody else a head start first. So obviously, the black community as a whole is set back that far, and I agree with that. And that, just whatever happened, the civil rights movements that happened in the 60s is not enough to overcome and put the black community where every other community is now. Not every other community, but by and large where the white community is now. But so we're at a crossroads right now. Is the way to solve this by being, for lack of a better description, the way to solve that to be racist towards white people and every other demographic besides black people? Or is the remedy for that just to be more time, that it will eventually even out? I mean, what can we do? Give me a concrete, policy or example of what can be done to rectify that.
The remedy for that.
JJ.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Go ahead.
If you say that, then you have to look at about being racist towards every other demographic, but black people at that point in time, in the late 80s, early 90s, you had the Asian community, because of what happened during World War II, receive reparations. You've had several different native communities receive reparations. Everybody talks about the Asian community as as being the model minority when they bring up conversations with the black community. But if you look, a lot of their success has come over the last 30 or so years after that influx of money was pushed into their community.
I have a question. What did they use that money for? University,
education,
and that is my point. Now, if I see a climb in the black community focusing, because I'll tell you this right now, they're not giving the black people specific money. I went to 5 different colleges, multiple junior colleges, and a couple of universities, and I had access to loans that no one else had access to. And education is a teaching a man to fish. Now, I agree with JJ to a certain extent that there needs to be something that is implemented that helps people who didn't have that head start. That's fine. I'm not saying give people money, because I'll tell you right now what black people are going to do with money in these communities that are going to get the money. They're going to spend it on the same thing we've been spending it on for years and years and years.
I mean, that depends on
teaching somebody how to do something.
You're always going to have those people in that community do that type of thing. You're always going to, but that's in every community.
Wait,
but how many young black men want to do something like y'all have done, or like I've done, or whatever JJ, because I know you're younger, man, want to do in the future and grow it? How many of us are out there that don't have that access? Because the other thing is, when you look at redlining, you look at property value, and that's how schools are funded. So if
we keep talking about this is where, and this is being sensitive. I don't care about the school system. Let's be real. JJ, do you make any money on the side right now? How old are you? 16?
16, yeah.
Do you make money on the side right now?
I occasionally do, depending on like if I get a brand deal or something.
Oh, so that's interesting. You don't have to be in a special location. There is so much opportunity out there for people. I am sick. First off, I think we need to see people put action in.
Hold on, wait a minute.
That's not everybody's mindset. No, and I'm not knocking it. My dad's an entrepreneur, and so I'm not knocking it by any means. And so is one of my grandfathers. My grandfather went to college at 47 to start a business company the year I was born. So, but part of the thing is, he had to be able to go to college to get to build that business. With what my dad does,
a private university. It's not. I literally had special grants. Like, it's not that hard. We aren't turning our kids' heads in the right direction. I'm gonna let wait, time out. I'm gonna let Craig talk, and then I'm gonna let JJ talk.
We already have reparations.
How?
We have already.
How?
Do you know how we have affirmative action?
Oh, Lord.
White women benefit the most from it.
Thank you.
We have affirmative. This is what my issue is. You guys always want to talk about uplifting the minority community, and when we start having those tough conversations, the first thing you guys do is go to your anti-white narrative of comparing.
That's a fact. That's not an anti-white narrative. That's a fact.
Let him finish.
He muted me.
Do we have affirmative action? It doesn't matter who benefits. Do we have it? We do. We can get into universities without even making the grade that we're supposed to be making. We got affirmative action. We have so many loans and grants that are so available to us. We already had that. To say we need atonement and reparations because you want to still grieve about things that happened in slavery, it's ridiculous in 2021. Did Booker T. Washington need reparations? No. They were faced with real adversities. They were faced with real challenges, but yet they dedicated their lives to excellence. They got educated, they came together, they learned skills, they brought value to the marketplace. The same things that people like John and myself preach today. We got two different scenarios. John never went to prison. I went to prison. I come from the hood. I haven't been affected. I don't have post-traumatic stress. There's nothing out there that's affecting me. I don't have any traumas, but yet I come from nothing, literally nothing, to prison, to homeless, living in a car, to building myself up today.
Yes.
And there's many other very successful Black people in this country, in the United States, that have made themselves successful. Everybody on this panel that has a blueprint of success. But to tell a whole set of other group of people, for some reason, something holds them back when we were able to go with that blueprint to make ourselves successful. I don't see where the solution or positive outcome comes from to continue to highlight what some people feel are grievances because other people had a head start. John, you played football. I played sports too. One thing you do when you're racing is not focus on what your opponent is doing. You focus on what you do. What happened to those mentalities? Do you don't think that our forefathers and ancestors had the mentality of overcoming? What did Obama say? I remember when everybody glorified and loved Obama. Obama said in 2013 at Morehouse College, he says, it doesn't matter what your upbringing is. It doesn't matter what discrimination you've been faced with. Nobody cares. You have your forefathers and ancestors that have overcome things. Whatever you think you're going through, it is a pale compared to what our ancestors had to deal with, our forefathers had to deal with, in which they overcame and paved the way so that we can have the opportunities that we have today.
Okay, first of all, I want to bring this back because that was a lot of like performative, but the notion that white women benefit the most from affirmative action is not an anti-white narrative. That's a fact. Booker T. Washington, since we brought him up, yes, he was very much able to benefit and build himself up, but under capitalism, everyone cannot do that. Everyone cannot own a business because you need people to work at a business. So to preach this narrative of, hey, just build yourself up, yeah, you can strive for personal glory in your personal life, but to keep pushing your story as if your personal anecdote is data or speaks for a broad demographic of people is straight not.
Why can't they run a business?
I didn't say, okay, listen, I'm not saying that an individual person can't strive to want to get a business, but if everybody is a business owner, nobody's an employee. How do businesses function then? People have to be employees. People have to, not everybody will.
There's so many people.
Are you suggesting that we're having like a dual tier economy where everybody simultaneously owns a business and works at a business?
That's business. The more businesses you create, the more opportunities you create for other people. That's the way that it works.
Yes, okay. Explain to me how an economic model works where all 44 million black people own a business and simultaneously work at a business. How does that track?
How can you put it down and it hasn't happened yet? So
what?
So let's slow down. Hold up.
Okay, hold on, because I was never finished with my point. But if we want to talk about like Booker T. Washington, yes, he was very successful in everything, and his thing was he pushed for personal glory in his life, becoming a very successful entrepreneur and everything, while simultaneously acknowledging the faults that America had, which is why one of his big things was to push to get black people educated and to get black people in a position to start businesses and stuff like that, because he acknowledged that in the country that he lives in, there is a certain systemic barriers that are against people that look like him. So you can do both. You can, like I keep saying, you can push for personal glory in your own life while simultaneously acknowledging. And this notion that we have reparations because there's an affirmative action, which is effectively a suggestion that if two people of equal standing, this is not like some kid walks in with like completely nothing, like no life experience and then gets chosen over a completely prepared white person. It's a suggestion that two people of equal experience, when there's a minority involved, you should probably pick the minority because they statistically had to work harder to get there. Of course, that's not an absolute. It varies from situation to situation. But to say that that's reparations for 246 years of chattel slavery, where people were born as slaves, died as slaves, looked at as property, and then after that, Jim Crow and everything, to say that affirmative action suggestion is reparations is complete nonsense.
Our ancestors need affirmative action.
So,
MLK was actively pushing for affirmative action before he got killed. And they probably should, if they would have got affirmative action and some sort of extra strong reparations, we probably would see a less of a divide between the socioeconomic standing of black people and white people.
JJ, this is my question to you. Did you hear about what's happening in Oakland with the black impoverished communities or individuals getting reparations and the white people who are in the same position not getting them?
Oh yeah, that was a private funded thing where they were
It's distributed by government and city, so technically it doesn't matter. But
how do you feel about that? I didn't see that part about it being distributed by government and city. As far as I was concerned, it was a private thing. But even if then, I mean, I can understand it. It's kind of yikesy that you're gonna like
more on the concept. Like, how do you feel about impoverished black people receiving something while impoverished whites are not?
I don't know how strong I am on that because I feel like when you're talking about these complicated discussions, you have to have a conversation about race and class simultaneously. So I don't think it does much for like the cause of the left to exclude poor white people, because poor white people and poor black people are just as oppressed under like capitalism in my eyes as each other. But the other added thing, which comes in the race part where you have to talk about, is statistically a black person who's poor might have it worse than a white person who's poor for no other discernible reason other than they're black. So you have to have both conversations at the same time. I don't see where only catering to poor blacks or poor black people opposed to poor white people, I don't see how that necessarily benefits. I can get somewhat the sentiment, but I don't think that provides like the victory or whatever that like at least people on the left would be looking for.
So if that's the case, and first off, before I continue, for being 16, bro, you are gonna do some crazy things in life, man. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to get that out the way. But this is my next thing. So how is that different than giving black people reparations while impoverished white people who did not inherit land, did not inherit money, did not inherit any type of infrastructure, and had to work for it? Because I have hundreds of friends that had to buy their own land, just like me. They have less land than I have. How is giving reparations to black people and not to white people that have been born with just as little? How is that any different than what you just said you don't necessarily agree with?
Well, because first of all, when it comes to what the history of what the United States has done, the United States has effectively given reparations in the form of land to white people through the Homestead Act, the same thing that was not given to black people. So if you're going to try to atone for that gap, you're going to have to give something to the black community as well. But my thing is, when it comes to helping the black community and like giving some sort of reparations to them, it's because they're in a uniquely different position in that when it comes to being poor and being white, chances are you're not poor because of your whiteness. Chances are what you did in your life has nothing to do with your race if you're poor and you're white. There's a good chance that given the history of this country and given the position where black people were solely because of their race, that a lot of the reason why you could be poor could have something to do with your race. Obviously, it varies. It's not an absolute, like you guys will keep pointing back to your stories, but that is a very real consequence of the treatment of black people in this country. So if you're looking at a unique way to fix that, you have to take into account that black people are in a uniquely bad situation.
So we're at a crossroads. You're saying stories like John and stories like mine doesn't speak for the whole, but then I'm saying the same thing. Your stance doesn't speak for the whole of this other side of group of people that are successful, regardless of them being able, whether they started with a head start or they're not. There's people out here doing what they need to do.
And the reason why I push what I want to do, and you go back to your story, is that I'm speaking statistically. What black people's income is one or net worth or something is like 1/15 or 1/20 of white people. That's on statistics. That accounts for the individual successful black person and everything. But as a demographic, people are strictly like separated in this country economically, socioeconomically, based on things that have happened in the past. So when I'm looking at that and I'm saying, hey, we should probably do something to address this gap, and then you come along and say, but I didn't experience that. Of course, everyone's life varies, but when you're looking at what we need to do to help a society, you cannot focus on the individual anecdotes. You have to focus on the data.
You have to focus on the individual anecdotes because that's who's actually receiving that is the individual. You can do a big group, everybody gets a little something, but the individuals are the ones that do something with that. So at that point in time, if you don't focus on the individual mindset and structure, what is the point of giving these people all this stuff?
But how are you going to focus on, how are you going to make policies to fix a societal issue by focusing on individuals when black people were not seen as individuals? Black people were seen as, black people were seen as property. So you can't then 200 years later come along and say, we need to look at individuals and do something about individuals. Yes, every individual anecdote. You cannot do a societal policy based on the fact, you cannot,
rich people in the world divided up their money and gave it to everybody. It would eventually go back into their hands. So at what point does a person's decision making, the choices that they make in their life, they can cut a check right now, reparations, and give it to every black person in America. Do they have the capabilities in investing, taking the chances, and working hard and doing the things that they need? So reparations right there is not the key.
Well, reparations in the way you... Reparations in the way you... Hold on a minute.
Okay, wait, time out. I want to hear JJ, tell me what your ideal portion of your ideal format in a simplistic form so we can get it out quickly. What is your ideal sense of reparations for the black community? What would be what we need to call it fair and move forward with life, or is that even possible?
There are so many things that I cannot get through right now, but firstly, I think that we need to look at, because I know you said you don't care about the education or whatever when you were in a context of a different discussion though, but we need to look at how we do districting with schools in particular. How is it that when you can go 10 minutes down the road and have a completely different school district with completely separate funding based on property taxes compared to a school that's in a more impoverished area? I think we need to expand districts and make it so more schools are actually in a particular district so you can get revenue from various houses in that area. You need to do that. You need to invest in those.
So let me take that one real quick. How in the world are you going to get a better school district, more funding to a school when the kids are barely even going to school. Just because you have a better school doesn't mean a kid that doesn't want to go to school is all of a sudden, hey, we got more funding at our school, let's go. The thing is, blacks do not show up and do not participate in school regardless of the status because they do not find the value in it. So again,
wait, what? Based on what?
Time out. Let me
hold on. I got it. Because I live in Baltimore City, which per capita, we give out some of the most money, I think, in a country per student. We have something like 13 high schools where not a single senior could read. We have the lowest attendance, the highest failure rate. We have one of the worst school systems in the country, and they get some of the most funding in the country.
So let me point this out. Let me finish. At what point are we going to solve major issues at this local individual household level, or continue throwing these big one-size-fits-all blankets over everybody? We don't want to talk about the single-parented homes. As a matter of fact, we want to support a BLM movement that in their mission statement directly says, remove the male figure from the household.
False.
To remove that.
That's a lie. That's a lie. I've read the mission statement.
Who put it on their website then?
That's not on their website. They don't mention, hey, let's remove the male. Hold on, because they literally say we disrupt the They literally say we disrupt the nuclear family model by caring for each other in collective villages and groups to the extent at which. Hold on. I'm not done. Hold on. I'm not done. They say we disrupt the nuclear family model by caring for each other in groups and villages to the extent at which parents are comfortable. That does not mean remove the male from the household.
No, you're skipping part of it.
Supports the male.
You're skipping part of it.
Can you please find me the direct quote?
I'm gonna pull it up on my thing. I'll share the screen.
They took it down and revised it.
But I still have it. Don't worry.
Jennifer Vander Molen, she put a good point in the comments. But why did black people do better financially between emancipation and segregation versus post-segregation? Answer, is it because the fathers are not in the home, or where the fathers were in the home, which plays right into the BLM mission statement manifesto. They took it down and revised it. If they are so strong on their stance, why did they revise and have to update?
I'll let King Zay go.
Hold on. Let me answer that lady's question. I don't think it is as much of what happened with the father in the home as it was when they ended segregation. Black people wanted to spend their money at the white businesses that they didn't have the luxury of before, because it was like a step up. I think
that's the decision that we made. That wasn't white folks that did that. Those are decisions that we made.
Yeah, no. And I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just answering the question, because there's a guy, I cannot remember his name, and you're gonna laugh. I saw him do an interview on the Breakfast Club. An older black guy. He talked about how he grew up in North Carolina and there were black buses, because of segregation and things like black taxis and things like that, where when segregation ended, black people said, hey, I want to get into these things that I no longer had access to. I think that is part of what has disrupted things, because it allowed black businesses to fail where they were once strong, because that was the only option.
I feel like, also contributing to the failure, if you look immediately after the Civil War, black people prospered immediately after. Reconstruction ended when, I forgot what president it was, I think it was Cleveland, removed troops from the South. It was probably before him. Removed troops from the South to make sure black people, it was Grant. No, it wasn't under Grant, because Grant was like big on cracking down on the KKK in that time. I think it was the president afterwards. When we had federal troops stationed in the South cracking down on the KKK, making sure to their fullest extent that black people could get treated equally, you saw multiple black people get elected to state legislatures, you saw black businesses spring up. Then, when we removed the troops, the KKK exploded, and we saw the failure and everything accelerate of... Yeah, Rutherford Hayes, and he's regarded as one of the worst presidents for doing so. He ended at Reconstruction before it was ready, leaving generations of Southern black people who were just enslaved to be subject to the racism and open hatred in the South that was still there for them, which led to the downfall and everything that took place shortly thereafter. And if we talk about single motherhood rates, that can be directly traced to, among other things, because when you're poor, you're less likely to have a parent in the household. There's been studies conducted on that. And then on top of that, the private prison industry exploding, having mass incarceration, which leads to locking up more and more black males, thus leaving more and more fatherless households. These are all things that intersect and go with each other, rather than just saying, see, BLM said that they don't want black fathers in the household, and look what that happened. Like, no, there's a lot of things that started since the end of the Civil War that contributed to all that stuff.
To remove the nuclear family, that means there's no mother or father. But in their
Whoa. No, that's just rejecting the traditional mother-father like role in favor of LGBTQ. The nuclear family does not include the nuclear family does not include lesbian, gay.
Is it woman and woman?
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah.
Nuclear family means two parents.
So someone's
No, it's a heterosexual couple. Is the nuclear family.
Right, and it's
so it's saying we don't want that. We want there to be more accepting. Yeah, we want there to be more accepting of other types of families.
We're passionate about our ancestors. We're so passionate about our people. Can someone tell me where we had sexual deviations before the coming of foreigners in our culture as a people?
What are you talking about? Wait.
We didn't have it. It's not a part of us.
Wait.
It's something that we've evolved into now. We've adopted what you guys say. You say we've been westernized, conservatives, right? Everybody has adopted this whole movement that's being pushed now. But the main point of what I'm trying to make is they revised and updated and took that nuclear family part off.
Well, I mean, I'm still waiting for John to pull that up, but
I got it right here.
Nowhere in there supports the man taking leadership. Nowhere. Just his death.
whoa.
How the man can lead anything in their organization.
Because the left and all of us don't see a value in like these inherent like boxy gender roles, and that like the reason why we get rid of the nuclear family model is A, to care for each other in villages, B, because the nuclear family excludes anybody who is not heterosexual. That means lesbian, gay, trans, everything. You're basically effectively saying they're incapable of raising children there, even though the data shows that there's no deviation in between a child raised by heterosexual parents or lesbian, gay, trans, everything. So why would you want to keep promoting this model of a heterosexual man and woman couple when people are going to do what people want to do? People are going to love who they want to love and associate with who they want to associate with. So that's why they disrupt that model. It has nothing to do with we don't like men and we need to get rid of. That has nothing to do with it. It's promoting everyone's individual liberties to associate with whoever they want to.
Nothing in there talks about promoting the man to be a leader in the organization. Nowhere.
Yeah, because
but why? Not everybody is lesbian, gay, or within that movement. There's men like me, and I can only assume you.
Yeah.
John and King Zay.
The issue is I don't feel like it's a threat to my I don't feel like it's a threat to my heterosexuality to be a part of a movement that wants to refocus the leadership on people who are not fit into that mold. People can associate with and love whoever they want to love. I don't find a problem with it.
We're getting off on sexuality, which is not what I want to talk about, because I think that's because the argument is pointless.
But other thing, my whole thing is this, and I get it. You know, that's the movement is the movement. I get that, right? But I don't see where it's not promoting us, literally not promoting the man, a heterosexual man, to be anything as a leadership within the organization. I don't see how you guys don't see that is any type of negative impact. And it doesn't mean because I say that I'm some type of phobe, because that's the first thing that people revert to. It's like, hey, what's wrong with just saying, hey, a man can lead as well? But it's nowhere in there.
Because that was the default assumption. That's why they have to make it. It's not like we're just all of a sudden waking up and saying, hey, we don't want men to do things. That was the default platform, which is the same reason you see like the black-owned restaurants type stuff, is because the default category was white-owned. The same reason you see BLM refocusing on trans and gay and lesbian leadership is because the default platform was male leadership. So we want to raise the other voices that do not fit into that model. It's not against men. It's just pro everything else.
May I have the floor for 30 seconds?
Go ahead.
First of all, the nuclear family, just in my opinion, just means a mother and a father or two parents present in the home. And I don't think it really matters who you are. I think we can all agree that having two parents present to raise children is a much more beneficial environment for children. Now, I read a study back to what, we can argue all day and night about history and what's not working for the black community. But now I read a study, and I'm not going to remember the exact numbers, but it was something like if the government invests money into a Jewish community, that money stays in the Jewish community for like an average of 21 days. Mm-hmm. If the government invests money into a Asian community, that money stays in that community for an average of like 15 days. But if the government invests money into a black community, that money stays in that community for an average of 6 hours.
Mm-hmm. Damn. You don't do me like that. Jeez.
Yeah, dude, it was gnarly. So, I mean, what I think, and I'm not sure if this is going to sound racist or not, but the black community as a whole, we never saw a diaspora from the cities. So there's, the logic argument of are black people poor or are poor people black? Whoever's in cities are going to be the poor people. Whoever's in the ghettos are going to be poor. The black community never branched out, never had that diaspora from the cities.
Well,
so
I mean,
what would be beneficial for any community that was in the city and not thriving would be to get out of those cities in concentrations like that.
I feel like that lends also to, but like you're ignoring that redlining, B, the great migration from the South and the rural areas into the cities that happened.
Let me talk to you, JJ,
okay, I was gonna.
I hear every single day. I haven't said something in a while. I've been pulling this up. I'll show it in a second. I am, and don't take disrespect to this because I don't mean it disrespectfully, but I am so sick and tired. And this is no shot at your age because I'm 29. I just turned 29. Kings A, I don't know how old you are, but you're not that old.
I'm 29, about to be 30.
Okay, there we go. So what I am sick and tired of is us four sitting here who have never once experienced anything. We've maybe been a victim of something that happened in our past that put us or started us in a situation that wasn't ideal, but none of us have actually been victimized by any type of life-altering victimization. And we might be like, oh, well, I didn't get that job that one time. I played football my entire life at all levels. And every single black kid that came on the field and said, coach doesn't like me because he's racist was black. Every kid that was white that didn't get the playing time, it was just the coach didn't like him. So before they even thought about it, it's because, well, first off, you don't show up on time. You say the N-word when the coach says not to. You talk in film room and you don't do what the coach asks you to. It's not that he's racist. You don't live up to what his expectations are, and he's not doing you any favors. So we always default to this. It's got to be about our race. No matter how we look at it, it's got to be about our race. You're 16 years old talking about redlining and how that's going to affect your life and stop you from moving forward, or
didn't say that.
Stop others that are of your color, same age, whatever, in the future from moving forward, rather than us sitting here laying out a game plan of how we fix our own thing. My same example with this early on was the fact that the government hires a punk kid to come break your window. He breaks your window, and you're sitting here 100 and something years later waiting for the government to come fix your window rather than standing up on your own 2 feet, fixing the window, and living an amazing life after that. I'm tired of the black community constantly sitting here being like, well, we need all these implementations to happen before our community can be uplifted. Well, we have this, we have free education when we apply for these loans. But for some reason, our kids aren't looking to those free educations because they don't even know they're there. No one's educating them to go get these educations that are paid for by the government. No one cares. They would rather be listening to, like our previous conversation, Drake or WAP or whatever else, and making fun of people like me that talk about audiobooks and talk about entrepreneurship or wear your clothes right when you go in for an interview. Well, that's conforming to the white man. No, it's cleaning up. At some point in time, when are we going to stop blaming this blanket statement that we are all oppressed and the system has put us in a position that's different than everyone else? When are we going to stop and just say, look, there are things we can take advantage of, and we still don't, but somehow we want more?
I wouldn't say that, because I take severe issue with this. I wouldn't say that it was the government hired some kid to come break your window or whatever, and then instead of fixing it, we did it. If black people could fix systemic racism in the history of America, we'd do it. It's more like the government. Hold on. It's more like the government itself and the founding of the country. Your neighborhood was founded on the concept of breaking your window, blowing up your house, and now you're sitting here in the rubble talking about, hey, let's just do it ourselves, when it's something that's infixable, and we have to let you know what the issue is so we can move forward. We are not. Yeah, that's what you're you're not acknowledging what the issue is. We can't move forward as a community until we understand what the problem is, understand the historical ramifications of stuff that has taken place in the past, how that affects us today, and statistically how that generates our outcomes. But you're just saying let's ignore that.
Let me take this. That is my issue, and that is why I will continue to preach what I preach, but I know for a fact it won't break through, because you just said we cannot move forward until, and then you gave the power to someone else. And I am not okay with that. I wait, time out, let me finish.
Okay.
And I know you're not going to agree with this. I don't really care that you're going to agree with this, but I'm going to preach this till the day that I die. I am done with the black community saying, and we cannot move forward until, and then you immediately place the power into someone else's hands. I don't care if it's the government, I don't care if it's your neighborhood, I don't care if it's your mayor, you give it to someone else. And our black community has done that since the beginning. We live as if oppression is part of our culture rather than part of our past. And I am sick and tired of it. At some point, we as a black community need to come up together and say, this is how, and don't pull the Black Wall Street on me, this is how we move forward and create generational wealth. It starts by focusing on not renting. It starts by empowering our communities to look at different avenues of education. We are in 2021. You're making money off brand deals by sitting at home and talking on your phone. People need to know that there are different ways for revenue, different ways to buy land, different loan structures for land, other opportunities. Yet we are still sitting here saying we are not able or allowed to move forward till someone else does something.
Not till someone else does something, because at no point in this country's history have we sat around waiting for other people to do something. We have put pressure on them to make sure they do it. The Civil Rights Act did not come. Hold on. The Civil Rights Act did not come from us sitting there and waiting for the government to do something. The black community has been very active in seeing to it that we get these things done. It's people like, forgive me, but it's people like you guys that will sit here and say, hey, you guys are stopping us from going forward because we have the audacity to want to acknowledge what we need to do and acknowledge what the problem is. You guys are pushing this narrative as if this problem is like in the past and everything. It's just an individual thing now. Yes, you can work on stuff in your individual life. I think personally, my criticism of the left is we need to do more pushing on the individualistic, do stuff in your life to improve your possible outcomes. But we cannot ignore the data, the settled science and the data that shows black people are behind in XYZ way. Okay, what do we do about that? And for you to say that it's just like, oh, we cannot, and then we give it to someone else. No, that's what BLM is for. We're here advocating, talking about what we need to do, trying to push legislation through, trying to get our voices out there to make sure you guys know, hey, this is what the issues are. Let's do something about it. But you guys sit back and you grandstand about how we're not doing enough to tell people to go look for XYZ grants. Like, this is not part of the part of the problem. The problem is that the United States has not atoned for what it has done to the black community. And when we stand up and say we need that and we're going to push and force action, you guys come through and you say, oh, the problem is gone or it's fixed itself or something like that. That doesn't make sense.
You never heard any of it.
Hold on, Greg, give me one. I'll say this, because my beliefs on the issues and the situations fall somewhere in the middle, from where JJ's stance is and where John and Craig's stance is. The issue and the solution is somewhere in the middle. It's the teach a man to fish versus giving a man to fish. You can't just go and tell a man to fish, and he doesn't have the equipment. He'll never succeed.
So you're talking about what I do in real life.
No, hold on. You can't just say, hey man, you need to learn how to fish, but he doesn't have the equipment or the tools. But you also shouldn't sit there and feed the man, and that's all you ever do.
That's exactly where I am.
The way I view it is, you feed the man while you teach him how to fish, and while you give him the equipment of how to fish, and then that's how you be successful. So the middle ground is it just, hey, it's all the government, or it's all just self-reliance? Because if you don't have the tools, you still won't succeed.
And exactly.
If you don't know the avenue to get the tools, you won't succeed. And if you also just rely on the government and what the government has to give you, you'll never succeed.
Yeah, and I'd
always be stuck. That's why somewhere in the middle, where sometimes me and my dad were talking one time, and we talked about how if that's the issue, it's like, hey, this girl or wants to go to school to be a nurse, but she had a kid in high school. So she doesn't have, she has to work to put the kid in daycare and all this, so she doesn't have the time or the means. Maybe there's a system where you help the girl cover her expenses of daycare so she can take that money and put it towards an education.
So yeah, and I don't want you to like misconstrue what I'm saying. I 100% agree with you, and that like it's more like in this country history, it's like you have black people being the ones building like the fishing equipment for everybody, and then like people like you guys saying, hey, you need to learn how to fish, without taking a step back and giving them the equipment while teaching them how, hey, this is how you do for yourself, this is how you work for yourself, this is how you get everything right. You can't just sit back and say, hey, go do it, without giving them the equipment, which is exactly what I agree with you.
Fish, JJ?
What do you mean? How are you teaching them to fish?
They don't have a fishing pole. How are you teaching them?
I just told you that one of my criticism with the left is we need to push more on that, and what I mean by that is, hey, teaching people like kind of like what you guys said, in that that's not the only solution. Teaching people, hey, these are the various avenues afforded to you. This is what you can do. This is how to get your investments right and everything like that. But simultaneously acknowledging that we have a system in this country that, hey, criminal justice system, we need to reform that. Healthcare system, we need to reform that. Maybe if we had like a universal daycare system like you were talking about, people who wind up in that situation cannot focus enough time and have their kid go to daycare without having to pay for that, while they sit down and focus on how to get their nursing career back on track and stuff like that. But we don't have a lot of those avenues in the country right now is the problem.
So JJ, let me say this to everybody. It seems like now we're starting to come towards a middle ground. Because I'll give JJ, he's very intelligent for 16. He's going to go places if he continues to keep going. Now it sounds like we're starting to come to some type of middle ground. I like the fact that he was at least open enough to say, hey, this is something that I push that we need to change within the left. We have to start coming up with solutions and teaching people how to do things, versus people like I don't know why he seems to think that people like me and John are just saying, no, forget that and just learn how to fish. That's not what we're saying. So being that we slowly are coming to some type of middle ground, right? Whether we like our stances or not, what's a solution to how people that think like John and myself, and people that are on the left that are just like you, JJ, which you're very intelligent, and I know a lot of other intelligent people that are on the left, with you guys highlighting the grievances in the communities, in the minority communities in America, and with people that are like me and John, that are great examples, just like anybody else, of success. How can we come together and come up with a solution to how we can deliver a message that helps everybody? A message that where we come up with a solution where people can say, okay, you're fighting to get this grant. Me and John want to say, look, there's a mentality to be successful. There's a universal principle to be successful. And it doesn't care about what color you are or what background you have. How do we bring both of those together so that we can come with solutions and actually do some good things in the community, versus us just going back and forth all the time and disliking our agreements?
And I want to, and I really want to get to that point, in that the issue arises when you have, because a lot of that surrounds like a class discussion, like, all right, you're poor, you have this amount of money or whatever, okay, how do we increase that for you? How do we make sure you're making the right choices in your life to like increase that and everything? The issue arises with, like I said prior, you have to have the race discussion at the same time as the class discussion, because if you only have the class discussion and you forget about all the issues plaguing race, sure, we can all sit here and talk about how we want each other to like personally increase our wealth and get all these investment opportunities, but you are going to run into people who just simply don't like black people. And you have to address that issue, and you have to address it head on. So my thing is, my issue with the perspective coming from like the right or conservatives is that a lot of times, like when it comes to like economic issues, a lot of the times we will agree on a lot of stuff. The thing is, the willingness to just sidestep and overlook the racism that's still very much prevalent, that still very much affects the black community, is troubling. And we have to have both conversations at the same time if we ever want to fix anything.
I agree 100%. I think that's a great compromise. And just to be on my side, I feel, and you can kind of explain why I feel this way if you know, that not only does the left articulate the racist issues we have, but they glorify it as if it's more important than others. Like, I see a lot of individuals not necessarily you. I mean, obviously you're independent, you're a critical thinker, but I see a lot of individuals that purely say the issue in my life is because of racism, and they almost glorify it as if it's their crutch to say I can't because, or I am this way because. And I find it annoying that the left is always bringing up race, disparities, and issues as if it's something that should be more glorified, like King Zay said before, than the accomplishments. Like, we would rather, and I know this is a touchy subject, but we would rather glorify certain people that have been criminals in their past who get shot. And that's what we see in the news when you can barely turn your TV on and see a doctor, a black doctor out there in a positive light. And same thing with TV shows, same thing with music. We constantly glorify this racist agenda that we're just so oppressed.
I don't think that that's necessarily a black community glorifying the wrong issues discussion. I think that, hey, yeah, you're a criminal, okay, that still doesn't mean that you should have gotten like publicly executed via knee on the neck like George Floyd did, and we can argue, we'll be like, okay, that should not have happened, let's get justice for that. But I think that when it comes to the turning on the TV seeing a black doctor, that's more of a media thing, and that media is going to pay attention to like riots and stuff that are happening in the black community before they pay attention to the success story of like a doctor and everything, which I wish they would do more of that. But my thing is,
be a black person best friend and worst name.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like, we have to have both. That's why I constantly say we have to have both conversations at the same time. We don't have to sacrifice the argument that, hey, someone like George Floyd shouldn't have gotten murdered like he did, even if he had a criminal history. Okay, we can argue that, hey, the justice system needs serious reform and there's a lot of racial disparities, while simultaneously saying, all right, now at the same time, let's look at our black doctors. Let's look at these formulas for success and stuff. But you cannot divorce the conversation. And what happens is we'll talk this now, but then a lot of times people, especially on, I know there are a lot of like liberals who will tend to like sit there and be like, it's only race and everything, blah, 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 which is annoying because they aren't like as comfortable like criticizing like economic systems like capitalism. But there's too much people like liberals and conservatives at the same time that'll say like, oh, you know, we can only have one discussion or the other, which is how we don't get anywhere.
But we're not, and I get what you're saying, but we're not having one discussion. We're basically saying, don't let this hold power over you, and this is how you move forward. Basically, like King Zay said, is give that middle ground, basically being like, look, we understand, like I said, and I'm pretty sure, JJ, you were here listening, I know there's obstacles. I understand that. I'm not saying that you need to make them disappear. I'm saying you need to not let them hold weight. Just like you would say, I don't know, you play sports. I think I saw one of your TikToks, you play baseball.
Yeah.
Just like your coach would say, hey, you lost your last 5 games. Don't let that determine this game. Right? It's not saying that you didn't lose those last games. It's not saying that happened. It's saying focus on the moving forward rather than the harping on the looking back. It doesn't mean you're not going to learn from your past games. It doesn't mean you're not going to learn from your past mistakes. But you need to have that calculation and that steps and channels forward. And I feel like, which I'm glad we're getting off that, but a lot of people, including us, do this back and forth of like, you're bad, when really I keep telling people, we're getting the same thing. We're just coming at polar opposite directions. We're all going the same thing. So I think what my main point here, and I think a lot of our main point here, is putting the black community in a positive light, while again, not neglecting the past, but also not choosing that to be the determining factor moving forward.
That's
that's the biggest move that we could possibly do. And when we talk about the media, when we talk about social media, when we talk about a lot of these movements, and I'll include pretty much all of them, including Republican, conservative, any organization you're a part of, they all have an agenda. No matter how you spin it, they all have an agenda. And I don't think we should put too much power in them. We should put more power, and I think King Zay said this before, in ourselves to move forward rather than say we need to.
That's my thing. For me, there's a difference between saying this shouldn't hold power over you and like not like advocating for certain things, right? So you say like, oh, and like, yeah, you lost your last 5 games, but you should be focusing on like the past or whatever. My thing is, when you get into analogies like that, you tend to understate what has happened. It's not like you lost the last 5 games. It's you came into you learned your first introduction to like baseball was at a point where you had to work on behalf of people who are now ahead of you hundreds of years later. You had to do that. You were not
training properly how to pitch for 5 years, and now you're trying to relearn it with a trainer. I think you should focus on the relearning it, right?
Whatever.
No, but it's not like you weren't training for pitching for 5 years. Like, you weren't allowed to pitch. You didn't have a trainer. Everyone else had a trainer. You didn't have anything. That's my thing.
Whatever anybody feels they're being faced with today, it is a pale compared to our forefathers. Period.
That's not an argument, though.
That is a fact.
That's not an argument. It's a fact. It's a fact, but it's not an argument.
Let me say that.
Let me just finish this real quick, Craig, and I'll let you go. My point is, so you didn't get training at all. You didn't get any training, nothing. And now you're in the game. You're not going to be in that game looking back, complaining about the fact that you didn't get any training. You're going to be grasping at anything you possibly can to move forward while lifting up the people around you. Not pretending like you never got training, but focusing on the path forward. Is that incorrect?
My thing is, it's not like complaining. That's my thing. You guys try to say it's complaining. It's not complaining that you never got training. It's you never got training at all for like hundreds of years, and now you're in the field and you make errors. You're making errors. Then you have people like you guys sitting on the sidelines like, oh, you guys are making errors. It must be your culture. No, it's the fact that we didn't have training at all, and we're trying to say, hey, we didn't have the training. Hold on. It's we're trying to say, hey, we didn't have the training. Let's make sure we advocate so we can get that training while simultaneously,
Craig, what's up?
So let me go back to this, because for me, it's always about solution and sometimes try to find middle ground. Everybody can make great arguments, great statements, put their opinions in, right? I want to say this for the record for conservatives that are like me and John, right? For people like JJ and even King Zay or anybody else that's listening so that they can understand. There's this notion that we just completely dismiss any type of challenge that's out there. That's not the case at all. There has always been a binary type of thinking within the minority community in America. You had the Booker T. Washington, a mind frame type of people, which would me and John kind of align right along with the Booker T. Washington. And then you have the W.E.B. Du Bois frame of thinking, which is JJ, which we can't discredit W.E.B. Du Bois because he made great stances, the way that they thought, their stance, the things that they believe, and how he wanted to go about it. I cannot completely throw that out. We need that, but we cannot completely discredit what a Booker T. Washington's frame of thought was either. So how, which has never been done yet, do we take Booker T. Washington's thinking and W.E.B. Du Bois's type of thinking, which we have today, and we seem to always be at war? How do we collaborate versus us continuing to go back and forth? How do we collaborate versus having arch enemies, which it was the same in their era and leading all the way up until we have till today? How do we come together as a solution? So I say that because I want you to know, like, look, bro, if you think that people like me and John don't think there's obstacles and things that's out there, like, no, dude, you got us wrong, man. We're saying, look, just like Obama said, it doesn't matter what you've been faced with. We can go back and reference people that have been faced with far more, but they still did better. They still strive. They still were able to make things happen. Today in 2021, we have so many opportunities and different things that we can do to apply ourselves. So when I say culture, that's what I mean. There's good things about our culture in 2021 today in the Black community or minority community. And then there's things that are just destructive in our community.
Yeah, I feel like that's with every community, but I would also ask you the question, where does culture come from? Culture comes from your environment. And what was black people's environment?
So who makes a black person pick up a .357 and shoot somebody point blank range?
Nobody. Various society. Hey, that could be your decision in the moment, but what various societal pressures led you to that point?
It's
like
every individual.
You see how? Hold on. Did you see how you just quickly refocused from a societal discussion to an individual one, right? I asked you.
Time out. Hold up.
You muted me again.
Because now we're going around in circles. Craig, I get your point. JJ, I get your point. At some point, I don't want to circle around in circles for people that are watching. I'm going to unmute you guys. I just do that.
Let me jump off of what Craig was just saying. So, JJ, your argument is kind of like, I think, JJ, you're waiting for something that's never going to happen. The way, looking from the outside in, what I see you saying is that the black community needs this, the black community needs that, and until then, we're not going to be able to do anything. We're just going to stand here with our arms crossed, and it's not going to be good enough.
No, we're going to fight for it and advocate for it.
Well, so wait, what's the fighting? I don't want to know. Never
the fighting is BLM, but you guys.
I knew I didn't want to know.
you have your opinions on that.
Every white person right now that is successful to some degree, do you think they got their success through, you know, what the government was giving them, or their education through what the United States was giving them, or do you think that knowledge was passed on? That you know, the education was passed on, the financing, the backing, all of that was passed on.
I'm not gonna speak to any individual situation, but if you're looking at
Say
statistics,
that again, Ben.
Successful white people, do you think they got their success through the government, through government education, and through what the government was giving them financially, or do you think by and large that was passed on through generations?
I'll say passed on, but I won't.
Let me
I
ask you
would
this.
say
Let me ask a bold question. What is the black community doing for the black community? Because if that is passed on from generation to generation, if people are teaching each other to fish rather than the government teaching you to fish, take John Dawson and Craig, for example, trying to teach the black community.
Hold
all
on.
I see is the black community tearing those two guys down.
Wait a minute, but you
What's
just
up with that?
hold on, but if one can be passed down from but if success can be passed down in the white community from like generation to generation, then why can't the various like hurdles to black people be in the same way? So if you're having white people, not necessarily saying that black people aren't doing anything for themselves, but if you're having white people who were started off as the property owners, black people were the property, and that success can manifest itself down the line like in future generations. Why is it then that we're so quick to dismiss or to move on from the fact that black people's struggles will continue?
About the generation thing, you have to look at it like this. I'll use my wife's
I'm
grandfather.
gonna give us like 5 more minutes and then I'm cutting it.
Yeah.
Not the whole
Yeah.
live, but this conversation.
Oh yeah. No, I'll put it to you like this.
Gucci and Macy's and say that is reparation. Nothing in our generation taught us to go and agitate and break into Macy's and Gucci's.
Okay,
and say that
alright.
is reparation. That is
Okay.
Black Lives Matter. He just said it for the record. Black Lives Matter is the movement. It is the resistance.
That's 3% of Black Lives Matter protests. That's 3% of Black Lives Matter
All right,
protests.
time out. I'm muting everybody. I'm muting everybody.
Muting me again.
Because Ben ain't saying nothing. At this point in time, guys, we can debate BLM. I'm not muting Lee because hey Lee, how you doing?
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good. I'll get to you in a second. I wanted to wrap this up, and don't worry, JJ. I'm gonna let you get your last words in.
I'm gonna dip at 10. It's 9:43. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about chat.
This thing with all of
I'm
this
gonna
is
dip at
that
10. It's 9:43.
I have respect for every single person that's on the screen right now. Everybody here has had a thought process that's critical, that's groundbreaking, that is going to, in their eyes, move them forward. And that is the one thing I can appreciate about every last person here, is because we're not sitting here following blindly. We're actually digging into something. And that is all I ask of anybody. And I said this when I first started TikTok. I don't care what you believe, as long as you can articulate why you believe it and why it's going to help you, then by all means, I am no one to tell you to go a different direction, period. So, JJ, I appreciate you. I did that on a meeting, or he muted. I appreciate your point of view. Craig, obviously, you know we're on the same page. King Zay, I know you in the middle, but I respect your critical thinking, and I know that you have your family and your legacy's best interest in mind. I think that in just the sense of moving forward, we need to come to a solution. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to wrap this conversation up, because I do want to talk to Lee and dive into some, I don't know what you want to talk about. We can dive into the same thing, but I want to wrap this more heated conversation up. If you guys want to, I'm going to start with JJ. If you want to if you put something out there that says what you stand for, what you see, and how you want to come together, because to be honest, man, I don't agree with much of what you say, but I respect you 100%. I appreciate you. And my entire point with everything that I do is to get someone to lift themselves above where they think their skin color puts them, right? I don't think skin color changes where you are in life. I don't think you should judge someone on their skin color. I don't think you should judge someone from where they grew up. I don't think you should say a kid that grew up in the cut is not able to be a billionaire in 20 years. I don't see that. I don't believe that. I think that every person is born with the ability to do whatever it is that they set their mind to. They just need to have someone lean into them and say, you have it. And that is why I'm saddened by the major narrative that is overshadowing kids that never knew they couldn't, and saying, by the way, you like you, JJ, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but you're 16 years old and you're already talking as we can't.
That's not what
I'm like, no, you can say your piece. I'm not projecting that on you. That's just how I see it. I perceive it. Is a 16-year-old saying, I can't a lot, and we need them to, or we have to wait until, and that to me is mind blowing, because when I was 16 years old, I was starting my second business. Now that's not for everybody, but I just saw money and I loved it. I was like, I want to buy this and that. How do I do it? It's not by messing around. I was a rapper for 3 years, right? I opened up for Big Sean, Chris Brown, Snoop Dogg, all these people. I saw the life they lived. I wanted that. Period. And there wasn't any government implementation, any city implementation, nothing that was going to give that to me. It was a mindset saying I'm going to go do. So that is what I'm preaching. And I understand there's a lot of other nuances and minor things, not minor things, but major things that people can focus on. But I'm saying I choose to look past that. It's not everybody's choice, but I choose to look past it and build a better life and bring up as many people as I can with me. That's why I teach people about LLCs and everything. Yeah. That's what I see. JJ, I'm going to let you say something, then Craig, then Zay.
I will say it is 9:46. I'm going to dip out at 10, but I'm going to give this like statement to close off just this argument for now. I think where I go and where a lot of people on the left go, where the narrative kind of gets misconstrued, is that, yes, you need to have someone there to be like, you can do it, which is something that the left needs to work on, but you also need to somewhat hope that you're in the correct environment, because as we established before, life isn't fair. People can have the ability to do stuff, people can have stuff, but if it turns out that you're statistically more likely to be behind the 8 ball, so to speak, in your circumstance, not your individual action, but your circumstance from the start point, then we need to do something to atone that, because the way you increase personal liberties and the way you increase personal freedoms is making sure people get as much equitable treatment as possible, because if you're starting on the same playing field, you're more likely to be able to strive for greater goals. It's gonna be a lot harder for you to strive for greater goals if you're starting from a place of below. And the thing that we focus here on, or not focus on, but the thing that we talk about on the left is acknowledging that, yeah, it's gonna be harder for a lot of people to obtain those goals, because it is still a fact that black people start from a lower position on average. Obviously, the anecdotes, you said you started your 2 business at 16 or whatever, everyone can't do that, and that's really great for like individual things, but when we're talking about society and an effective way to run a society, you have to focus on the ills that were previous in that society to focus on where we need to go in the future. So I think the way we increase everyone's personal freedoms and increase everyone's opportunity to be that guy who can go and start their business at 16 and be that guy who can be the entrepreneur even though everyone can't, the way you increase the amount of people who can do that is by making sure we atone and get to a point where people are starting off as the most equal position as possible, and there's nothing that happened in the past that could have a statistically likelihood of like determining where you start in life. I think that's where we go, and I think that's what we need to focus on.
I appreciate that, bro. Hey, Craig, go for it.
Well, first I just want to say, I mean, thank everybody for being on. I respect everybody's input. I even respect King Zay and JJ's input. I think they're both very intelligent in their stance, and I hope that this panel, which I hope we can do it again, brought a little bit more insight on maybe just John or myself. You know, through TikTok, we don't have enough time to really.
Has the girl said anything yet? No, she hasn't.
In our post sometimes. So I hope
I'm not about to deal with her arguing another conservative position.
I always like solutions. I believe that God gave us the ability to individually to make decisions for our lives, right? Whether people think collectively things need to change, still people's individual decision making, it plays a major piece.
I saw her pulling faces while I was talking. I don't know what I said that she had an issue with.
We can argue other people all day, but we can definitely argue our truth, our experiences. My decision making that I made in my earlier years, which was JJ's age, around 16, 17.
It's a 4v1.
Was to choose that lifestyle of living out in the street, which
it was a 4v1 and a half, because the King Zay, hold on.
When I was released,
I really appreciate King Zay for being here, because he has somewhat leftist tendencies, but also like a middle thing. So it's technically a 4v2, but best believe I was carrying.
Stop me.
I think I'm doing well. And I'm finna wrap up. This guy's gonna drone until 10 o'clock, so I'll probably just dip.
I want to say, in some way, if we can come to solutions, like with JJ's stance and with people that are like myself, John, and a lot of other people that are on the panel, how do we do that? We can point out the different disadvantages that people may feel, but when does the individual decision-making play a major part in the person's life?
I mean, yeah, it was at 3v2 because the girl hasn't said anything yet, but now it's a 4v2.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't collectively change people when it does. We all can make a conscious decision individually to make a change in their life. So with that being said, man, it's always much peace and love. Just like John Dawson's brand, it's much love. JJ, whether you believe it or not, I got a lot of love for you. King Zay, I got a lot of love for you. And you guys all know, even though we have similar beliefs, I got a lot of love for a lot of you guys. So that's my closing statement.
Appreciate you, bro. King
All
Zay,
right,
go for it.
I view things like this. I think it's somewhere in the middle of both of these guys. I think JJ's right. There has to be something done to where there is an equal opportunity. But once the opportunity is equal, it is, like Craig said, down to your personal decisions and what you make with
There
those
you go.
opportunities.
You have to make
There's
the
always
opportunity equal first.
That gray area. People try to paint life in black and white when there's more gray than there is either or the other. So I view things in the sense of, if
They're not going to research anything I said.
if opportunities are equal, then it's up to the individual to make the outcome what it is. Whether that's a positive outcome, a negative outcome, or you stay somewhere on the same playing field that you started at. But it's all about the opportunity being given to the person to have that. And, I got nothing but love for you guys. Me and John interact a lot. I follow you, Craig. I follow you, Ben. I follow JJ. Everybody here is intelligent in the way that they think, in the way that they're able to communicate their viewpoints and their issues with things. But I agree, it's about finding that middle ground to make a difference.
I appreciate that, man. That's smooth. Ben, I'm gonna let you say something, man. Talk to me.
No, I mean, JJ's obviously, very, very smart kid. I don't mean to say kid. He's smart. He's obviously, sharp. You got a lot going for you, and you've definitely brought a different perspective that I'm used to hearing. Obviously, I mean, sometimes we do create our own echo chamber, especially on social media. And you've given me a lot of things to explore. I do disagree with a lot of the things you say, just ideologically, but respectfully. And I think these sort of exchanges are what we need to be doing as far as a civilization, and even across race lines. We need to be exchanging these ideas and kind of feeling out what the problem is, instead of always highlighting what's wrong. We were talking in the beginning of this broadcast. We were highlighting everything that was, as humans, we highlight everything that's wrong. We're quick to tear each other down, but we don't celebrate what's good about each other.
Debate Candace Owens, she would never. Hold on. She would never, at all. She'd regret that.
To think about, and like I said, I do disagree with a lot you said, but I hear you on a lot of the things you did say. So in that regard, thank you very much. What is your ad? Are you on TikTok?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same as my username here, jwilliamj. Yeah, I'm there and on Instagram. You can find me.
Gotcha.
Yo, man, I appreciate this conversation. I think one of the most powerful things, even though we're not walking away, holding hands and singing Kumbaya, I think one of the coolest things about this is to be able to sit down here, get heated. Jay, I appreciate the fact that you are very strong in your stance, and not once did you stoop to insults or throwing names like that. That is something that, unfortunately, is rare, and I'm not even gonna say on the left. It's rare on both sides. We feel like if we can't articulate our argument, or if we can and someone's not listening, we just start calling names. So, bro, I really do appreciate the fact that you are respectful. That immediately gives me mad respect for you. I appreciate you. I really do. And you can stay on here for a little bit longer. I want to jump on to Lee and talk to her about, I don't know why you hopped on. Maybe you want to talk about something we already talked about. I swear I've seen you on TikTok. Am I tripping, or is that you are on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm everywhere. I just couldn't. You guys couldn't see the comments. We had our screen full and you popped down below. I didn't even know you were on here until I saw a number 1 over on private, and I was like, oh man, I missed it. Oh no, so I was just just listening, and I mean, of course, I follow John and you and Craig,
And the conversation y'all were having, the one thing that I felt was missing was, why didn't anyone say we're all American? Like, why? That's where we start.
Yeah.
That's where we
I can. I think that.
the same, where we start in
Oh
America,
Lord.
and you can go from everywhere. I think that was one thing that just kind of irks me just a little bit, because everyone wants to carve themselves out to be different when it's what makes them different.
Oh Lord.
Before you can become a citizen here, but so many people are becoming what we're born with.
Yeah.
And I think
My camera's not turning back on.
that 10-year-old, I was everything that hear a lack of life lived.
Oh, my camera's not turning back on.
And I didn't know, like, maybe I came in late, and I could hear the 16 and being like, you have no idea what you're talking about until you get a job, until you have a family, then you will understand what you're saying. And a lot of, it's the same conversation, I keep on hearing it every year, and it seems like everyone's getting further and further away.
I'm sorry, my camera's
What makes
bunned itself.
what our shared history and shared culture and is American.
You're so right.
Yeah.
I want to speak on that too, because I'll tell you a pivotal point in my life. When I was 13, I went on a mission trip to El Salvador, and we handed out candy and talked to kids, right? That changed my life.
I'm gonna dip out here because my
I went with
camera's.
that time. I went 3 other times by myself because I had to go back. When you see what someone in El Salvador lives with, under, and then you come back here and you see all your daily issues, you see your systemic racism, your history, and you see the impoverished people in our world, that's people that are doing well in other countries. And when I saw that as a 13-year-old, it shocked my world. Like, I mean, I was 13. I was a young kid. I'd never really cried outside of being hurt. Or
And there we go. My camera has bunned itself. Let me try to figure out if I can get this back on so I can do a proper outro. But I just decided I'm gonna peace out real quick because pretty sure we've reached the end of that discussion. Do I think they're gonna internalize anything I said? No. Do I think I beat them all? Yes. What is going on? Oh, wait. Did I put in my battery backwards? Am I an idiot? Is that even possible? I'm an idiot. Hold on. I don't even think that's possible. Alright, it's not turning back on. I don't know why. It's annoying. Oh, wait. I think I gotta... Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. I think I know what I gotta do. Here, wait, I gotta remove this real quick. Hold on. Alright, now I gotta add this back. I apologize. I want to do a proper outro, which is why I'm, like, trying to get this right. Are we good? Hi. I'm back. I didn't think that would actually work. But, yeah, so do I think they'll internalize anything I said? Fuck no. Do I think I bodied all three of them? Hell yeah. If you guys did enjoy, my computer stopped recording periodically, so all of it, most of it will be on my YouTube channel eventually, and I'll probably post some clips to my TikTok. But if you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe here and get all this stuff, because TikTok been bullshitting me recently. I just got everything figured back out, so if you guys would subscribe and blow this channel up so I can actually, like, continue to do things like these. Yeah, that's been my first debate in months. I have COVID now. Ignore your pain. Are you serious? Almost got 200 views. Yeah, almost 200 concurrent viewers. That's nice. 150 likes. I just drooled. Go on Prize Gay Show or Destiny or Vosh. I want to talk to Vosh. Not really to debate him, just to, because he's kind of like not a mentor, because obviously he says yikesy things, but I really like that dude, and I want to talk to him, just to like kind of rant about shit. I feel like Vosh is one of the guys I just talk to just to like rant and say random shit. But yeah, I did great. Thank you. I feel like I did well. I feel like I defended my positions well. I wanted to not get bogged down in the whole like middle ground conversation, because it's hard to. I want to find middle ground, but it's hard to find middle ground with people who are on a completely different planet. And you saw that because they kept retreating back to, see, I didn't experience this, therefore. So yeah, I feel like I stayed aggressive. I feel like I maintained my points, and yeah. Oh, if you guys don't know about my Discord, I have link trees on my Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, so you can click there and join my Discord server. We're gonna start revamping things, scheduling more debates to happen in there, and we do Among Us games from time to time and stuff like that. So, oh yeah, I was gonna go off on that Lee girl, but then I was like, I want to leave, and my camera stopped, and my camera died because I heard her impugn my age as if I don't have any idea what I'm talking about until I get a job. There are people with jobs who have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Human beings are flawed. Human beings are not perfect. Getting a job does not make you figure out the world's problems. The president didn't have the world's problems. The president never has the world's problems figured out. That's one of the ultimate jobs you can get. So this notion of, hey, you're 16, you don't know what you're talking about. I can look at data. And I'll be damned if I have someone who doesn't look at data tell me I don't know what I'm talking about simply because my age is a different number than hers. But that's a discussion for another time. If she wants to debate me one-on-one, we can happily do that, and I blow her out of the water. But thank you guys for sticking with me and watching this shit show. Like I said before, if you did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my other social medias. A lot of you guys already know me from TikTok. Make sure you check out my Instagram and my Twitter, stuff in my description. And yeah, I love you guys. Have an awesome day and night wherever you are. And peace. Da na 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 na.